We're at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, and welcome to season number 58. I'm Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire. I can't think of a better place to start it than the Cowboys against the Vikings. Can you, Tom?
Sort of a playoff game, whether it's the first one or the last one with these two teams. No doubt about it.
You look at these two ball clubs, Minnesota and Dallas, and they're young. They have rebuilt. But yet, while they're rebuilding, they've managed to stay on top.
Well, and the all-stats quarterback, Fran Tarkenton, does not play well against Dallas. I think he's 5-9 lifetime. But listen, Seaman, Blair, and McNeil are good linebackers with speed. Dallas is going to have to figure that out. They go to the three-man front once in a while, too, Pat.
What do you know of the situation of last year's Heisman Trophy winner, Tony Dorsett, in Dallas?
I think Preston Pearson on the experience factor will start, and then we'll see Tony Dorsett very quickly. He could break out in a rash, as they say.
All right, let's get to the action and see what's going on down there. I can't wait.
It's hot here today, too. It's the warmest, of course, we've ever been up in Bloomington, Patrick.
The humidity is higher than the temperature, in fact. It is 72 degrees with 74% humidity. The ball teed up at the 35. The Cowboys will kick it off, and it'll be Efren Herrera. Brent McClanahan is the deep man for the Vikings, and he will field it at the 1. McClanahan behind the wedge. To the right side, and good. Outside. Short of the 20-yard line. The game officials today. The referee is Pat Haggerty. The umpire is Al Conway. The head linesman Walt Peters. The line judge Bob Beeks. The back judge Jim Poole. And the field judge Bob Lewis. They tried 7 officials on occasion during the preseason, but during the regular season, it's the regular 6. First down, Minnesota at their 19. The quarterback, the very familiar number 10, Fran Tarkenton. Foreman and McClanahan, the running backs. And Tarkenton will throw on first down. The coverage is good. Aaron Kyle.
Kyle might be shaken up on the play, and if anything, it looked like there might have been a little bit of offensive interference, but the receiver and Kyle are both on the ground. First play of the game.
Well, you saw number 43. Who was also involved in that collision. That is Cliff Harris, and you expect somebody to stay down when he gets there.
Fran had a lot of time to throw because the first play, it was sort of aggressive blocking on the line of scrimmage. And again, on the very first play, we have 2 football players down there trying to get the air back.
The receiver, I believe, Tom, is Ahmad Rashad. Aaron Kyle is back up. He is starting in place of Mel Renfro. And there's Ahmad Rashad.
Cliff Harris walked away from the explosion point just like he always does. He got out of there just before the crash.
Or else he caused the crash, I'm not sure. Very important again.
Very important that both backs came out. Actually, one back did stay in, McClanahan, and blocked, but Tarkenton might try to beat the big Dallas rush by putting, of course, Chuck Foreman out into the patterns very early. This was for Ahmad Rashad, and looked like Dallas was waiting for that as much as Rashad was.
Well, there was Cliff Harris who fell on top of his teammate Aaron Kyle, who now appears to be okay. But Rashad is still down. While we're waiting, and while they're administering to him, here is the offensive line for the Vikings.
Got Big Riley at left tackle, Goodrum at left guard, Tingelhoff, who's been at center forever up here, Hamilton, who's now in for Eddie White, and I guess Eddie White will no longer become a Viking. At least he's not starting this season with him. And, of course, the All-Pro Big Ron Yeri, the 10-year veteran at right tackle.
The receivers were Rashad Sammy White, the second-year man now, who did so well as a rookie, and Stu Voigt, the guy who just comes out of the ground when they need clutch yardage.
McClanahan and, of course, Chuck Foreman, one of the great all-purpose football players ever to play this game, in my opinion.
So it's second down for the Vikings. Tarkenton gives to Foreman, who cuts back or tries to the inside. Bob Brunig was the first man who got there. And I remember saying at the end of the year last year that it's not going to be right watching the Cowboys without seeing Leroy Jordan in the middle. But Bob Brunig has taken over and done a good job.
I think Leroy worked with Brunig and Hegman and all the linebackers in training camp. But you're right, Leroy's gone. The defense, by the way, is Ed Jones, Jethro Pugh, Randy White, the rhinoceros out of Maryland, and Harvey Martin. That's the down 4.
So it's going to be 3rd and 8. Last play for Minnesota got 2 yards. And here goes Tarkenton again. Down the middle and deep to Foreman. At the 40 is Chuck Foreman. Stopped by Thomas Henderson. Foreman out of the backfield.
And he is slow getting up. Watch how quickly number 44 gets into it. He's down to 206 pounds this year. and he actually juked Henderson out of the way. Good pass blocking. And as we've said, anybody that can catch 218 passes in 4 seasons is almost impossible to stop.
Randy Hughes, along with Henderson, made the tackle. But what a juke Foreman put on Henderson. And Foreman might be hurt, or is hurt, no question about it, as you look at that.
If you lose Rashad and Foreman the first 2 or 3 plays of your game, Bud Grant's going to be grayer than you are.
That's impossible.
We're not laughing at the injury. It's just that Foreman is such an incredible athlete. Somehow you always believe he'll get up.
219 pass receptions in 4 years. He is the second leading all-time pass receiver for Minnesota. He's accomplished that in just 4 years. Bill Brown is number 1. Sammy Johnson has taken Foreman's place. The Vikings are deep in running backs on first down. Minnesota at their own 40.
Fran's going to throw it a lot today, huh?
Like he might have to. Straight ahead, Johnson on a misdirection play, and Johnson's got some room. At the 40, at the 35 by Cliff Harris. They took advantage of Randy White.
Randy White, number 54 now. Watch to the right of your screen. They'll let 54 through and just let him run himself out of the play. It looked like it might have been what they call sort of a false action play against him, but the main thing is that Sammy Johnson breaks out clear, and it's Cliff Harris that had to make another tackle. He had to make too many tackles, I'm told, in preseason.
Just inside the 35, another Minnesota first down. Funny looking play there. I don't want it, especially when I see Bob Bruni coming at me.
You know that was a mistake.
Yes.
Fran is very nifty, and he hasn't played 17 seasons keeping the ball on an option play. That looked like something out of Don Farrow, Bud Wilkins' notebook.
Except there was nobody to option to, which is a pretty hard way to run an option. It is 2nd and 10 at the Dallas 34. Sammy Johnson and McClanahan still the running back. Francis. Stu Voigt. Stopped again by Cliff Harris.
Boy, Goodrum is doing a great job blocking Randy White, too. He stands him right up to the right of your screen. You'll see the blocking pattern. Watch Tinglehoff and company. And I'm telling you, Fran is a quick drop back man. And again, he's not trying to throw it a ton. He's just going to get it over one area and in between the next area. Harris is in pretty good shape, but Voigt always seems to be in his own shadow, doesn't it?
It looked like Randy White might have gotten a piece of the ball, but not enough to knock it off line. Chuck Foreman is back in for the Vikings. First down, Minnesota. He is going to throw a lot, isn't he? For Sammy White. Knocked down. White had a hand on it. Harris and Kyle back with him.
I'll tell you, Sammy White almost went up over the top and palmed that for a touchdown. And don't think that the line where the grass ends in the end zone is the end zone line. There's some gravel down there. This is a baseball park, and it's sort of the warning track, but that's playable where they come down. And watch what Sammy White almost did with it. And then Kyle comes and scrapes it off into the fence. That's a pretty dangerous area to catch a ball in, by the way.
I'll tell you, that is gravel down there. The word on Ahmad Rashad is that he just got his bell rung. That means he got hit hard in the head. And he'll be back. Carpenter is going to throw back across the field. Wide open is Chuck Foreman, and he's going to score.
'56 touchdowns. 56 touchdowns in 55 games. Now watch him fake to Foreman. Foreman went through the line, died a little bit for a count or two, and the weak side linebacker, and I'm not going to try to put responsibility, should have been laying there waiting for him. Now watch this from the same angle as the play unfolds, and you'll see how open 44 is. And he was the first man they faked to. Harris has no chance. Foreman looks like he's all right.
I'll say. 81 yards, 8 plays. 19-yard touchdown pass to Chuck Foreman. An extra point by Fred Cox, and Minnesota making it look easy. Breaks on top. They lead the Cowboys 7-0. Minnesota Vikings taking the opening kickoff, which wasn't too impressive, but after they got past that point, everything else looked pretty good.
Cowboys haven't had the football yet, and it's 7-zip. When your offense has been waiting to get their hands on it, you can become very nervous in your first offensive series.
Especially when, really, as you think about the Cowboys, their defense is supposed to be their strongest point. Larry Brinson is one of the running backs, back deep for the Cowboys, along with Butch Johnson, 86 and 36. And Fred Cox, who's been kicking off as long as Mick Tingelhoff has been here, will kick off for Minnesota.
We figured out that when Fred Cox was going to Pittsburgh as a running back, that Tony Dorsett was 4 or 5 years old.
Fred Cox, who just kicked the extra point to make it Minnesota 7, Dallas nothing, will kick off now for the Vikings. Tony Dorsett on the Dallas sideline. He will not start on his first offensive series. At the 9 is Butch Johnson. I beg your pardon, it's Larry Brinson. He's out to the 24. Dallas offensive unit, which has Roger Staubach, the quarterback. The running backs are Preston Pearson and Robert Newhouse. Here comes Golden Richards in motion. He was lined up right behind Staubach.
Pat, do you know why Landry originally had the lineman reset and stand up and set again? I was told that it was to cover up spacing of the backs behind the offensive line, sort of to give you a little bit too much to see and you couldn't quite see over. And looks like this time they cost themselves 5 yards with an illegal shift.
Ball start, number 89, offensive.
Number 89 on the offense, of course, is Billy Joe Dupree. So it'll be 1st and 15, Dallas. At their own 19-yard line. Roger Staubach, the quarterback.
Dallas a little tight.
They are. Golden Richards again is lined up in the backfield, and here he comes out. The Newhouse straight ahead. Page, the first man there.
Reports on the great defensive tackle Alan Page, number 88. Now watch him make this play. That he only came and played on weekends because he's busy getting that law degree. And he was down to about 228 or 226 even when he came into camp. But if anything, he's quicker. Watch Newhouse, number 44, get it. And Page has really gone over Neely's block. And that's on the line of scrimmage, too.
Page was actually knocked down and got up and made that play. So it'll be 2nd down now and 14 yards to go. Right ahead is Pearson. He got some room. Preston Pearson outside the 40 for a Dallas first down to the 43. Stopped by Paul Krause.
Big Doug Sutherland to the right center of your screen coming from the Minnesota side. Let's see what they do to him. They just kick him out. Newhouse leads through the hole. This was a draw lead, they call it. And this is the reason Preston Pearson starts important games. He knows when to turn it on and when to sort of deaccelerate.
Heck of a block by Rafferty on Doug Sutherland. 1st and 10, Dallas. Ball at their own 42. Dupree in motion. Staubach the pass. Protection is adequate. It slipped out of his hand, but Dupree still made the catch for no gain.
Jeff Wright hitting just about the way you want to get a receiver early in the game. You're not thinking INT on this because if you take an angle like this, Roger can reload it. Watch the pressure by Sutherland. Has to be picked up by Preston Pearson. Ball is thrown decently and caught. Just happens that Jeff Wright is there, and that is the #1 secondary against the pass. At least it was last year in this conference.
People keep saying you can beat them, but you can't.
Gosh, I don't know how.
2nd and 11 at the 41. Minnesota 7, Dallas nothing. Here's the pitch to Newhouse. Newhouse taken down by Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker.
Defensively, Blair, Seaman, and McNeil are 3 very quick linebackers for Minnesota. And the Dallas coaching staff remarked in the old days they were sort of big pillars out there on the corners for Minnesota, but they now have great speed at the wings, and that helps that defensive line a heck of a lot.
Newhouse is out, And Jay Salvey is in. Drew Pearson split wide to the left. And so is Dupree. A shotgun on 3rd and 8. Staubach drops. Started the throw, didn't. Does not have first down, and what a shot he took. Jeff Seaman and Bobby Bryant almost took him in half.
And even worse, Roger did not get the first down. Let's take a look at the first shotgun of regular season play. Drew Pearson was going to be the receiver, but he fell down. Now Roger makes a pretty good run. Watch Bryant low and Seaman high. Hello there, 4th down.
One thing that will tell you is that Roger Staubach is in great shape. He would not have survived that shot. Bob Grimm is deep for Minnesota, and Danny White is the Dallas kicker. It'll be Grimm. And Grimm is in a grim situation. Back at his own 10-yard line or thereabouts. It is Minnesota 7, Dallas nothing. We have 8 minutes and 13 seconds remaining in period number 1. A touchdown pass from Tarkenton to Foreman. Got the Vikings breaking on top. Both teams were able to generate a little offense in their first 2 offensive series. That was a 36-yard punt by Danny White. Not one that he caught like he'd really like to. And Bob Grimm had the Cowboys swarming all over him.
I'll tell you, coming up here to play, I've sort of always poo-pooed the idea that you got to have a home field advantage, but playing in Minnesota is something else. The Vikings seem to feel like they're a better team up here. I don't know if that's possible when you're the NFC champions.
They've been feeling good for a long time. Tom Landry probably not feeling so good right now. Jim Meyer standing alongside, Roger Staubach in the background.
That's the same face, though, win or lose, or
yeah,
trail or be ahead by 20. It's pretty much the same guy, too.
All class. Minnesota has the football at their own 12-yard line.
And you know, Dallas is the toughest defensive team in the first period of football, just about in the National Football League, and yet the Vikings came right out, took the ball, and bam, got 7 points. It's incredible.
Clutch run by Sammy Johnson, a touchdown pass from Tarkenton to Foreman, and Francis is going to throw again, and does. Foreman can't hang on. Thomas Henderson was out with him. Final score is Atlanta 17, Los Angeles 6.
And who would have known more about the Rams than the new Atlanta coach, Coach Bennett? It must have been, of course, one of the great wins, I think, in Atlanta history. And
it really has to be.
And the Rams got out on top on Namath's TD pass early, didn't they?
And, of course, they're in the same division for at least right now. The Atlanta Falcons are in first place. That was the final score, 17-6, Atlanta over Los Angeles. Tarkenton going again. Sammy White out of bounds at the 25, first down, Minnesota. Aaron Kyle close to him.
I'll tell you, Fran Tarkenton could pick your pocket with 5 plainclothes guys watching. Deep in his own territory, he goes right back, sets up quickly, and Kyle, the second-year cornerback, who's going to be a great one, slipped and fell down. And you'll see Sammy White has a lot of room, and you got to give him a lot of room, too.
Another final score. The Eagles start off on a positive note. They beat Tampa Bay 13-3.
Vermeil is a dynamite young coach, I'll tell you that.
John McKay, of course, still looking for his first NFL win in a regular season game. Henderson, the stop on Foreman that last time. Here is another final score that's a bit of a shocker. The Giants at Giant Stadium in the Meadowlands, 20-17 over the Redskins.
And they did it late with, of all things, a field goal.
By Danilo with 3 seconds to go. What about this? That's also a final score. Many people saying Cincinnati would be Super Bowl caliber. Cleveland beat them 13-3. Second down for Minnesota, and about 6 with Tarkenton. Giving again, this time to McClanahan. Harvey Martin and the rest of the Dallas front 4. Kansas City, New England final. Kansas City was on top at 14-0 at one point. The Patriots came back to win it 21-17.
New England never quits, though. Fairbanks has that team playing better in the fourth period than they do in the first.
What have you heard about Miami and Buffalo?
Oh, I didn't hear that. What did O.J. Simpson do, not show up? Maybe he's in some airport looking for a car.
He didn't get to the end zone. 3rd and 4, and Tarkenton drops again. Looking down the middle for Sammy White. Randy Hughes back with him. Pass was thrown well.
He wasn't back where Sammy White ended up. Now watch Fran look over the middle for number 44. You'll see Foreman come across, and then he unloads it and throws right over the top. You never do this against Dallas, but Sammy White's speed is so good, he almost made the catch really on a throw that was beyond everybody.
Neil Clabo is still the Minnesota punter. Butch Johnson back by himself for the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, of course, have blocked a few kicks in their time. Johnson will have a chance. Flag goes down back at about the 30-yard line. Johnson got out to about the 38. They couldn't set up a return. 6.5 minutes left to play in the first period. It's Minnesota 7, Dallas nothing.
I think they called a clip on Randy Hughes, who came back to help Butch get a pretty good start on it. Haggerty makes the announcement, and Dallas is going to have even further to go to get back in it.
Let's see what the officials have to say about this. The referee is Pat Haggerty. And when they get through stepping it off, we'll listen to his call.
He's a Denver fellow. We ought to be able to understand him anyway.
You should.
Personal foul. Clipping. 31 on the run back.
Benny Barnes is number 31, on whom the violation was called. Here is Roger Staubach on 1st and 10 with the Dallas offensive unit. I'll tell you who they are in just a sec. Staubach back to Pearson. Slipped down, ran into Alan Page. Carl Eller also involved.
Remember, this is a natural grass field, and they're still playing baseball in it, and they've been playing soccer on it, and it's not in great condition, but I'll tell you, the slip cost him that time because Donovan had a pretty good hole up front for him.
Tom, here's a fourth period score. Green Bay 24, New Orleans 20. The Packers were on top at one time, 17-0 in that game.
I bet Starr wishes he could suit up and play the last few minutes, huh?
I bet he does. At the 17, 2nd 11, Pearson. Into the secondary, outside the 25 to the 26.
Good blocks by Fitzgerald and Neely and Rafferty that time. The whole left side of the line did a great job. Still not a first down, though, is it?
No. Baltimore and Seattle are playing. That's a later start, of course, like this one. And the Colts, behind Burt Jones, have taken a 7-0 lead over Jim Zorn and Seattle. To the situation now for Dallas. Jay Saldy goes out. Staubach kneeling and calling the play. Rogers going to run again. And once again, he will not get the first down. It is Carl Eller, one of the many veterans on that Minnesota defensive line.
Carl's only been playing 14 years. The incredible thing is that I think his last 3 or 4 seasons have been Carl Eller's best. Watch this now. Rogers still hasn't been able to get the aerial game going because the receivers are covered. He's running well. Look at this play. 14-year veteran.
Year after year, they say that Eller and Marshall are too old to keep playing. And year after year, as you said, Tom, they keep getting better and better.
And Carl Eller never alibied for getting blown out of a Super Bowl or anything. Did you notice that?
Never. Well, none of them did, really. No. Here's Danny White.
Ooh.
Oh, fine punt. Nice and high. Bob Grimm up with the hand for the fair catch. And that was a very wise decision on behalf of Bob Grimm because the Dallas coverage was right in his face.
Dallas still seems a little tentative about the whole thing. They are not flat out open yet.
We have 4 minutes and 39 seconds left to play in the first period. It's Minnesota 7, Dallas nothing. Of course, we are doing our best to pay tribute to Preston Pearson because he's one heck of an athlete and has been for a long time. But, Tom, I'm frankly anxious to see Dorsett.
Well, if Minnesota goes with a three-man front, which everybody is, and the Vikings have promised to do, that's the college defense that he ran against so well. He will know where everybody is, and I imagine Dorstetson will get his shot.
There he is.
Looks like Flip Wilson a little bit, doesn't he?
We were watching him in the warm-up, and he does have that gliding stride that the great runners have. Mike Ditka alongside.
Yeah, there's Tony Dorsett. He has the most acceleration off a cut of any running back I've ever seen, and I can't wait to see him perform either.
Tony Dorsett, 1976 Heisman Trophy winner, has not played as yet for the Cowboys.
Looks like he wants to. He's up on his feet.
Vikings on the offense. Randy White, with that great quickness that he has, takes down Chuck Foreman.
Randy White from Wilmington, Delaware country in the University of Maryland. And the people back there call him Hunk. And that's about it. He's about the strongest.
He's a hunk, all right.
He's the darndest thing. In a Nautilus room, he can almost level the darn thing. He is really something.
2nd and 12 situation now for Minnesota, and Tarkenton has been throwing on almost every other down so far, and you expect him to do it again. He will. Flag is down, however. Outside, Sammy White. Tackled by Aaron Kyle, but White was close to first down. Well, let's see about the violation, though.
Notice how free safety Cliff Harris is going to stay on that weak side just to give Kyle the inside coverage that a safety man needs to support that corner man. Good coverage here by Kyle. That will allow him to play even Sammy White a little closer, knowing that Cliff is somewhere in the vicinity.
A violation must be against Dallas, because Tarkenton is going over and see how close he is to a first down.
Gary Michaels and Bud Grant. Of course, we heard that he brought the blowers out here just to make the guys think it was a cold day.
Did you play with him?
With Bud, no. But
he, of course, was an outstanding receiver with the Eagles, I guess, before you were there.
He was one of the first holdouts that ran to Canada. He was one of the smarter early guys.
He replaced. There is your measurement, which is about, well, that much short. Pat Haggerty has advised Fran Tarkenton of what the situation is and is doing so again just to make sure. He's looking back at Bud Grant. It is third down and less than one. Somebody said that, of course, Tarkenton runs his own game, calls his own plays. That when he goes over to talk to Bud Grant during a timeout, it's just a courtesy call because he's got his mind made up already anyway.
I just have a feeling, though, he better make the right decisions, which Fran has usually done. He's 5 for 9 for 78 yards, by the way, against the Dallas defense, and we still got a lot of time left in the first period.
Almost all the records in the book are headed by his name. 42,000 yards. How far is that?
Well, that's about how many yards I was running under passes. That's a long ways. Tell you something else, though. He has been a leader wherever he's been. He calls his own plays and runs his own offense, talks to his own players, not his own coach all the time, but his own players.
Less than one. Chuck Foreman will get it. The tackler, along with Cliff Harris and Charlie Waters. Haven't really had a chance to tell you who's playing defense for Dallas. The tackles are Jethro Pugh and Randy White. The ends, Ed Jones and Harvey Martin. The linebackers, Tom, are Dede Lewis, who is a familiar name for a long time, of course. Thomas Henderson on the other side, and Bob Brunig in the middle.
Got Benny Barnes on the left corner, Aaron Kyle on the right corner, and two of the best safeties in the business, Charlie Waters and Cliff Harris.
First down, Minnesota, with 2:56 left first period. Tarkenton is going for the marbles. Henderson, do you think he can't run? He's back with Chuck Foreman, step for step.
And I mean pulled ahead of Foreman on the throw, too.
Chicago and Detroit. It is the Bears 30, the Lions 20.
This division's going to be rather interesting after all, isn't it?
It surely is. Both those teams improved. As we mentioned to you a minute ago, Green Bay is winning over New Orleans. Let's check the baseball situation, too. The Yankees 6, Detroit 5. So they will maintain at least a 2.5 game lead. 2nd and 10 situation for Minnesota. McClanahan, the carrier, with trouble. Henderson, the tackler.
Boy, Harvey Martin just took Riley, the tackle, and stuck him right under the play. There's D.D. Lewis. By the way, the Cowboys worked harder in this camp than at any time that Tom Landry's been there, which is the entire existence of the franchise. Whereas the Vikings, they showed up about 6 days before their first preseason game and sort of went laughing through the exhibition series. Bud Grant's a pretty cool customer.
Out go 2 linebackers, and in come 2 extra defensive backs for Dallas. One is Mel Renfro. The other is Randy Hughes. 3rd and 10 situation. Targeted under the rush. Henderson with the interception, I believe. He did catch it. He did catch it. On his back, Thomas Henderson.
I thought we were watching a baseball replay. Now watch Henderson. He's the middle linebacker that's got 9.500 speed. That's what he had when he was in college at Langston. Now watch him go across, cut off, and hit. You'll see number 58 and 44 run. Now watch him fall down. Watch the ability of this one.
That was Ed Too Tall Jones that put too much rush on Fran Tarkenton. 7-0 Minnesota.
There is a timeout.
2 minutes left in the first period. There is a timeout on the field.
Did you see that interception? It was an incredible play.
Yeah.
I mean, you can practice for a lot of things, but on your back catching the football is not one of the things you go out and drill for.
They say perhaps that the guy who made that interception, Thomas Henderson, is the best all-around athlete on the Dallas squad.
He can make a ukulele sound like a string guitar.
Can he?
That's just, you know, he has that extra something.
And you really got to be an athlete to do that.
He was out here about 2.5 hours before the game started, checking the darn infield running conditions.
He was out here almost as early as we were, in fact. The mosquitoes chased him back inside. We had to stay with him.
I've shaved twice.
The Cowboys, 12 consecutive opening day wins. Right now, they're behind 7-0 to Minnesota. Staubach outside, Drew Pearson. First down, I believe.
Big block was by Donovan, the big right tackle that used to be a defensive lineman at Stanford. He cut Carl Eller completely down, and Roger had complete area of vision. He just saw his receiver, threw it easily, no problem, because Eller was stretched.
It was a 9-yard pickup, not a first down, as I said a minute ago. It'll be 2nd and 1 as Dallas moves into Minnesota territory. 2nd and 1 at the 45. Newhouse and Pearson still the running backs, and it's Robert Newhouse for the first down for the Cowboys.
What I like about Newhouse's running style, other than the low center of gravity, is that he always covers the ball up. He's not trying to go 60. Watch what he does. He'll keep both arms on it when possible. All he wants is that first down. If he picks up 3 yards, fine. Paul Krause hit him a good shot, and others, Blair included. But I'll take Newhouse on a day-in, day-out basis.
As somebody said yesterday, you won't think he's very impressive, but he'll come close to 1,000. Here's Pearson going inside the Minnesota 40. Stopped by Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker. The Dallas offensive line is John Fitzgerald at center. Herbert Scott and Tom Rafferty, the second-year man from Penn State, is the right guard. Pat Donovan is the right tackle in place of Rayfield Wright. And Ralph Neely is the other.
You imagine losing Rayfield Wright, and you've got a fellow in there that they say is going to be one of the great young linemen in the game.
Oakland 7, San Diego nothing.
Don't count San Diego out of that. But James Harris is quarterback. They're a dynamite young team right now.
2nd and 8. Dallas quarterback Roger Staubach drops and throws outside, or tried to Newhouse. Knocked down by Jim Marshall.
Which way, Jim Marshall? There's another veteran that's been around a while. 18 seasons. He played 1 year with Cleveland and then came over here. Van Brocklin coached him. He's been around Minneapolis longer than Bud Grant, that's for sure. Watch this play. He's only weighing about 222. He spikes it, and darn near makes the interception.
Intended for Newhouse, but it'll be third down for the Cowboys and still 8 with 34 seconds left first period.
Big play right now for Dallas. Big.
And it's time to load up the gun. Staubach drops deep. And throws deep for Pearson. He's open. He did not quite get the ball to Drew. He had a step or two.
Drew Pearson tried to draw the interference call. Now watch from the shotgun. You think it's all big cigars and motor cars for quarterbacks. Watch this. Roger throws it deep, gets it off, and Page, and that's the Apache Stranglehold.
Over the top of Neely. There it is again.
Now watch Drew Pearson try to back under the secondary man and get an interference call because he doesn't feel like the ball's going to make it, which it doesn't. Tries to call it. Does an after job in the end zone, but the official just stared him in the eye.
Danny White trying to get it out of bounds. That looks like it might be a fair effort.
Oh.
About the 3.
Take that, Bud Grant.
Robert Miller put up his hand back there.
Also a great country quarterback. Danny White was going to play a lot of football, not only punting the football. He can throw it. He had a great preseason, really, when Roger was not ailing, but just watching the team get into shape.
CBS regional games of next week. Atlanta at Washington, New Orleans at Detroit. Chicago will be at St. Louis. The Giants will be in Dallas for a visit. And Philadelphia will be at Los Angeles. Minnesota plays Tampa Bay next Saturday night.
Look out for number 10. There's no rhyme or reason with this guy.
This is the spot he likes to unload, and there he goes. Francis. There goes the flag. He threw it away.
Going to lose it down, but you can't lose the points.
And you can't lose many yards.
He didn't lose his life either. Watch this. And I'm telling you, the big guys come with the rush. Tarkington in the end zone, looking for a short pattern. He's trying to get Voigt checking out. Oop, here comes Too Tall. And there's Randy White. He didn't even know Fran got rid of the ball.
He didn't even care. Let's see what Pat Haggerty has to say.
Intentionally grounding, offense, loss of down, and down.
Some of the partisan fans are booing, but that's just because it's so warm here in Minneapolis today.
you know, all kidding aside, that's a very intelligent play.
It's better than 2, which usually ends up to be 9.
That's right. You lose it down, but you keep that 0 on the scoreboard. 2nd and 11. He only lost a yard by that violation. He might try it again. Stu Voigt. First down, Minnesota.
So he wastes the play, so what, right? So Fran comes right back, as Pat just told you, and says, I think I'll do it again. This time he brings Voigt back across the middle. Tremendous time to throw the football. Too much to give Fran. First down.
Seems strange to me, Tom, to look at a Minnesota crowd that's not all breathing smoke and wrapped up in fur coats.
Are singing Christmas songs.
Yeah. Chuck Foreman right straight up the middle. Stopped by Ed Jones.
Riley is working with Harvey Martin, the big left tackle. 79 now. You are right behind the Dallas defense. In fact, Waters, the safety man's there. Watch Martin. Of course, Riley is out of little double team. Little double team. Tackle in the tight end, and now Martin moves in and makes the play. I'm wondering what happened to Randy White on that play. He never did get the call.
So it'll be 2nd and 2. And the ball this time, Robert Miller. Stopped by Charlie Waters.
People ran on the Dallas defense a little bit. Here's the misdirection play. You can no longer just worry about 44. This fella can run, too.
That is Robert Miller. Enough for a first down for the Vikings. Ball now out at their own 29-yard line.
We saw him blast out in that playoff game last year against Los Angeles, remember?
Right. That is Miller again, and this time not much to work with. Randy White was the guy who was on top of that.
And Jethro Pugh was probably under it. Jethro, by the way, is healthier than he's been in probably the last 6 years. He is lean, and he's at 255 again. And this team worked incredibly hard in the offseason on their own conditioning without anybody counting down over them.
At the 30, it's 2nd and 9. Draw play to Foreman. It looked like he might get more out of that than he did. Jethro Pugh made a quick recovery.
Wes Hamilton is in that wild spot that the Vikings have had, the right guard position. Eddie White, the All-Pro, the 200 and at least 75-pounder, had a little bit of a salary problem and is probably retired from football, and they put Hamilton right in there, don't they?
For those of you who've been watching that game, welcome to our broadcast of Minnesota-Dallas. Chicago, that's the final score. The victors 30-20 over the Detroit Lions. Here it is 7-0. Minnesota leads. A touchdown pass to Foreman. Bad exchange between Foreman and Tarkenton, and a worse exchange between Randy White and Tarkenton.
Fran wouldn't give it up, but he had thoughts about it. Watch this. It's going to be a little old. It's almost the old Statue of Liberty. A bad handoff on the hip. Now Fran and Randy White get into this, and this fight is over.
Francis looks like a rag doll. Butch Johnson standing back at about his own 30, and Neil Claybowl, number 12, will punt for Minnesota. Almost got it. Claybowl goes down with the act. Johnson takes the ball. No place to go for Butch Johnson, but they were trying to block. Watch the act.
Claybow's a pretty good punter. He's never going to kick like Ray Guy for the 42-yard average, but he did kick 7 of them inside the 20 during preseason. He gets this off, does the Veronica. Nobody touched it. Everybody was faking in this.
It is 7-0, Minnesota over Dallas. This is Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire at Bloomington Stadium in Minnesota. At Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, I should say.
You were close, though.
Yeah. Dallas owns the football 1st and 10 at their own 41. 12 minutes left first period. Staubach is going to throw. Wide open is Golden Richards. Inside Minnesota territory to their 45. Matt Blair, the tackler. Let's see how he got open.
And watch the good fake by the lineman for Dallas. They pulled like they were really on a mission to the left on a running play. Because of that, everybody got tangled up, including Sutherland inside. And this was just a turn-in by Golden Richards, who couldn't believe he was that wide open. Now watch him decide, get down, get down. First down.
At the Minnesota 45. Pearson and Newhouse still the running back. Pearson the carrier. Slips down again. Carl Eller, the man who destroyed the play.
Watch Scott try to get out the left guard, and he and Eller, and unfortunately Preston Pearson get tangled up right here. Carl went right over the top. Eller is really one of the incredible people. Does dramatic readings when he's not swatting people around on Sundays.
2nd and 12. The yard line is the Minnesota 47. The Vikings lead the game 7-0. Newhouse also slips. A flag goes down. A violation right in the middle.
It's thrown into the offensive line of scrimmage, or on the offensive line of scrimmage, which should mean some kind of a Dallas infraction.
It is holding, I believe. That was the preliminary indication from Pat Haggerty, I think.
I'm wondering if the two teams are wearing the same kind of shoes. I have a strange feeling on that real grass that the new modern little plastic slipper isn't quite as sure. We've seen several Dallas guys slip down.
Here it is from Haggerty.
Holding, number 64, offense.
Tom Rafferty, the young Penn State guard in there, was holding on.
This telecast is presented by authority of the National Football League. It's intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Minnesota Vikings and the National Football League is prohibited. 2nd and 22 situation, and Roger goes back deep. John Fitzgerald, the center. Vikings jump. Alan Page right in front of Fitz.
I knew Alan was quick. He went that time when they set him on the line of scrimmage.
The violation is not against Alan Page, however. It's against Dallas.
I think Fitzgerald must have twitched. Fitzgerald told me before the game, he said, you know, I'm sort of a work animal. He said, blocking Alan Page, it's not
Ball
fair.
Start, number 62, offense.
It was John Fitzgerald who committed the violation, and as Tom said, he must have twitched.
With Alan Page on your nose, you got to just look up to see where he is.
And that would make it twitch.
That's a blind snap, you know, on that shotgun. That's a pretty hard thing for center to do.
They're going to try it again. 2nd and 27 situation. At one time, Dallas was in Viking territory. From the shotgun is Roger Staubach, looking for time and buying some and throwing. Billy Joe Dupree. At about the 42-yard line of Minnesota, Jeff Seaman got him out of bounds. BJ had a good year last year and had a great training camp this year.
Remember now, this Viking team had 45 sacks last year, but they're not getting close to Roger on just the shotgun dropback. He had a lot of time, throws on the run very well anyway, and that's the tall target. Vikings got to keep pressure on Mr. Staubach.
It is a 3rd down situation now, and 7 yards to go with 10 minutes and 29 seconds left before the half. Ball at the Minnesota 42. Shotgun time again. Oh, snap. Staubach throws. Caught. Pearson, I believe, the catcher, yes.
Does that look like the catch that he made against the Rams in that playoff game a couple of years ago?
Gosh, he made so many great ones in that game. Here it is.
Pat, you're right. A little bit low, and that's the blind snap from Fitzgerald, who, by the way, is one of the very best at that. Notice the blocking up in front. Now Roger cuts it loose, and watch Preston Pearson. The only guy that came from another team that's on this Dallas team.
From a 2nd and 27 situation, the Cowboys got that first down at the Minnesota 30. 9:50 left first period. Here's Pearson down to the 25. Jeff Seaman, the tackler, but Pearson got about 5. We still have not seen Tony Dorsett other than standing on the sideline. Pearson and Newhouse started, and they've been the setbacks throughout the entire first half so far for Dallas.
Newhouse is a good blocker to have back there, too. There's Tony back there. He's standing behind Saldy. He does look like Flip Wilson. Not when Flip's Geraldine, but...
Roger Staubach puts Pearson in motion. Brings the ball back to the other Pearson, who's down to about the 23 before Alan Page again made the tackle.
Looks like Dallas is trying to make that defensive line play honest. They're running directly at them now, and not much finesse involved.
That, of course, is one way that you neutralize a guy like Page, who's so quick. Put the heat right at him.
If you embarrass them a little bit, they tend to stay home, too.
8:35 left on the clock before halftime, and it's still Minnesota 7, Dallas nothing. 3rd and 3. For Dupree. In that gravel part of the end zone, boy, that's a bad place to fall, I'll tell you.
And I'm telling you, that is real gravel. And he laid out that full 6'5" frame, and he's a little slow getting up, and I bet he's got abrasions the full length.
You know he does. Now we'll get our look at Fren Herrera with Charlie Waters holding. Herrera was very, very erratic in warm-up practice before the game. In fact, Dan Reeves, the Dallas coach, was telling me he had never seen him as erratic as he was. All of which is a pretty good endorsement for him to make this out of Charlie Waters' hold. It's good.
And Roger Staubach had plenty of time on that pass play, and I think he would like to reload and throw that one again, Pat.
7-3 now. The Vikings over the Cowboys. We're in Minnesota. Herrera has the ball teed. Indicates that he is ready. He just kicked that 40-yard field goal to make it Minnesota 7, Dallas 3. Brent McClanahan is the guy in the middle for Minnesota, and he's the guy that's going to handle it at the 2. To the 23. For those of you who've been watching Green Bay defeat New Orleans 24-20, welcome to Minnesota against Dallas in Bloomington. Score here is the Vikings 7, a touchdown pass from Tarkenton to Foreman. Dallas 3, 40-yard field goal by Herrera.
Number 10, by the way, Fran Tarkenton, is 6 for 13 for 91 yards, and looks like he has it pumping today. He looks very fresh.
It'll be a first down Minnesota at their own 24. Miller. Broke a few, didn't he? Outside the 35 to the 37, Cliff Harris finally made sure he stayed down.
Good play for Minnesota, too. They were always sort of east-west oriented, and they couldn't laterally do much with you. And now he throws back across the field. It's just a hitch by 35 Miller, but look at the room it gives him to operate in. And Riley's down in front with good blocks. I think the Vikings have added something to their offense this year.
It looks like it. First down, Tarkenton will throw again. Foreman had it, dropped it. Looked upfield too soon.
Toughest play to defend in football because the tight end is working on Henderson. The sprint out makes everybody rotate to that side, and Henderson is being screened by the tight end. And there's the man he's supposed to cover. This time he didn't have to, right?
Chuck Foreman, number 44, is lighter this year than he has been at any time since he came to Minnesota.
Maybe the ball's heavier.
That must be. He's about 205 or 206. And when he first came up, he was around 220.
Boy, does he have moves.
A little bit quicker than he used to be, which is sort of awesome. The stats on Tarkenton, the situation he faces. For White. With Harris. And he'll stay down. He went down as a result of contact. That was Benny Barnes on the coverage.
Boy, did Benny Barnes have the receiver covered. This is a stretch out now, and I'll tell you, Fran can throw it. Don't believe the stories that the arm won't go. Now watch it change. And you'll see the rest of the play from behind Fran, and watch Barnes make the play. And there's Harris. Isn't he always?
Seven 0 before a sellout group. The Vikings lead Dallas 7-3, I beg your pardon. Scott Laidlaw and Tony Dorsett are the running backs for the Cowboys. And here is Dorsett's first carry in the NFL, and it gets maybe a half yard.
Jim Marshall made the tackle, and we keep remembering the time that Jim did pick up the fumble and go the wrong way, but that was Dorsett's first active play, but that won't be his last. The one day he gets it turned on, he's going to have a 250 day against somebody.
The other setback is Scott Laidlaw. Dorsett and Laidlaw shift. Draw play Laidlaw. He might have got the couple. Jeff Seaman and Fred McNeil made the tackle. We have 6.5 minutes left before halftime.
I sort of have a theory as to why Tony Dorsett was getting hurt in the preseason a lot. It's just that he knew so well where the people that were going to make contact with him came from in college that in pro ball.
From the shotgun, he scrambled out.
You know who was chasing him, don't you? Watch number 88 get in hot pursuit, and Alan Page can run like a back. Probably as fast as Roger, and Roger's quick. Look at 88 coming from behind. I think Roger's glad that he got under Blair.
First and 10 for Dallas at their own 38-yard line. 5.5 minutes left first half. 7-3 Minnesota. Fake to Dorsett. Outside Laidlaw. Close to another Dallas first down. Stopped by Bobby Bryant.
Little slick operation here, and Laidlaw goes to the right area. He's always in the right place, and Dallas football has always been that way. If you're told to go somewhere, get there. He's a very cute football player and extremely dependable. Bryant does it out of bounds.
9-yard pickup as Bud Grant and Neil Armstrong look on. Tom Landry and Jim Myers look on.
What a day for football up here. I've never seen it like this.
Very humid, however. Pearson comes back in motion. Dorsett gets the call. Dorsett might have gotten a yard and might have gotten a first down. It is going to be very close. Jim Marshall led the charge.
I wonder how old Tony Dorsett was when Jim Marshall started playing football. He might have been in a career.
I don't believe he was born.
That's the great thing about pro football. It has lamination. You come into here and you don't have 12-year veterans at college. At least you're not supposed to have, right?
In some colleges, maybe. It is third down. Dorsett did not get it. He'll get another crack. And again, he does not get it. Jeff Seaman.
Don't you imagine the defensive people, and you're on the defensive side right now, don't you think they're keen, Tony Dorsett? Watch Eller come through and strip it, and watch number 50 now. And I mean to tell you, the big guy from Stanford's got it humming.
Randy White will drop deep, number 11 for Dallas. Bob Grimm is the man the Vikings would like to handle the ball. He's back there with Robert Miller. A high knuckle ball that requires a fair catch, and that's what Grimm does with it at the 20. The Vikings will take over with 3 minutes and 11 seconds left to play in the first half. And Minnesota leads 7-3. Two of the top teams of last year and the last few years. On opening
Buff, that's one you want to watch.
Here's one you want to watch, too. Tarkenton gives to Miller, and Miller got perhaps to the line of scrimmage, and the veteran Jethro Pugh was underneath.
These two teams are so good. If you make a couple of mistakes in a row, you could get down 14 points, and it looks like they're playing close to the vest, but they're really not.
Red Sox 6-4 over the Orioles in the 6th inning. Both of those teams chasing the Yankees still. Baltimore 2.5 games out. Losing to the Red Sox. Tarkenton behind Tingelhoff to Stu Voigt. Charlie Waters, the man nearest. And that Stu Voigt is
just
how does he do it?
214 pounds out of Wisconsin. They never draft any big tight ends that come in here and take it away from him. He goes down and finds the spot. He had like 8 catches in preseason, only about a 9-yard average, but every darn catch he makes is valuable. It's important.
That one was valuable enough for a first down. 3 catches by Stu Voigt for 40 yards and a Minnesota first down. And Tarkenton flips back to Foreman. Ball is loose. And looks like it might belong to the Cowboys. Yes, it does.
Again, it's between Tarkenton and Foreman, the best ball handlers, obviously, on this ball club. It's a casual pass that sort of hits off the shoulder pad of Foreman, and his effort to recover it didn't seem outstanding either.
Ed Jones had a shot at it, but D.D. Lewis is the man who made the recovery. Jones was in good shape on that play, and Dallas is in good shape right now. At the Minnesota 29, with just over 2 minutes left to play in the first half, the Cowboys look like they have a chance to get closer or possibly go ahead.
Dorsett and Laidlaw.
Those are the running backs behind Staubach. Dorsett goes deep in the eye. Staubach gets away from Page and finally does not get away from everybody else. It's ruled an incomplete pass. Laidlaw had it. Marshall has it now. And now the referees get it from the crowd.
I think Jim knows which way to go with that one. Give it back to the ref. Obviously, there was a good shot put on Laidlaw.
Now we'll wait while both benches are notified that there are that many seconds remaining in the first half.
Tony Dorsett, Pat, has got to learn to pick up. Alan Page makes a big move on Fitzgerald, and watch 33 not get the block on him, and that's what happened to that last play. There he is standing there. Roger now unloads and almost gets Laidlaw put in the infirmary.
We come back live. The ball is loose and live. And Minnesota's got it. Jeff Wright is the guy who made the recovery.
Tell you, their secondary guys look like the Yankee infield. Anything that comes around there, thrown or otherwise, they end up with it.
At the 15, it'll be 1st and 10 for the Vikings. Dallas defense back on the field. Minnesota offense behind Fran Tarkenton. 1st and 10. To Miller, straight ahead. A couple, not much more than that. Randy White underneath the bottom. And Jethro Pugh.
Can you be about dead even? Are these two teams about as close as you can get?
Well, Minnesota was 11-2-1 last year, and Dallas was 11-3. Minnesota 4-2 in preseason, and Dallas 3-3. Tarkenton dropped. Harvey Martin got away from the blockers. Tarkenton fires, and Chuck Foreman has it. That ought to be enough for a first down. Aaron Kyle wrestled him down. 1:05 seconds left first half. Minnesota 7, Dallas 3.
Some play by Tarkenton. Watch this. I'll tell you, this little character can still put it all together. Watch him run to the left. Boy, he knows how to get away. Throws it on the run. Very calm at the moment of release. Good tackle by Kyle here. Our number 44 has crazy thoughts.
It is a Minnesota first down. Ball at their own 28. They lead by 4 in the closing minutes of the first half. The first game of NFL season number 58. Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire.
You know, I've seen most of the great quarterbacks. I either played with them or had them throw the ball over me to somebody else. But I'll tell you, number 10 is the most unusual that will ever come along in this game. I don't know if we'll ever see anybody that's put together like that can play that many seasons, have all the touchdown records, all the yardage records, all the attempt records, and not get hurt.
You look down that list of records that are live that Tarkenton holds right now. Most yards gained lifetime, most touchdown passes lifetime, most passes attempted lifetime, most passes completed lifetime. It just goes on and on. Now, those are not team records. Those are league records.
He says he wants 2 more years of it, which doesn't make the opposition feel any better about that either.
1:05 left in this, the first half in Minnesota. Don't forget to stick around with us at the half for an update on all the scores from Brent Musburger and Phyllis George and Irv Cross. Less than a minute now left in the first half. Minnesota 7, Dallas 3.
You know who's really blocking is Goodrum. Charlie Goodrum has really grown up, number 68 at the left guard spot. He went across and trapped that time on Too Tall, and not a bad hole.
5-yard gain. The Vikings show not too much of an indication that they will call a timeout. Just run out the first half, unless something big happens. Francis is going to try to make it. Intended for Miller, who pulled up. Aaron Kyle on the coverage. That'll stop the clock with 23 seconds left to play in the first half.
He's probably thinking 3 points. He'd like to get Cox inside the 30-yard line or so and try to get a 40-yard field goal out of the veteran kicker, his osteopathic kicker that's been here for 14 years.
Fred Cox.
That's right. Imagine that you could have a guy on your team that can pop your knuckles and get your back in shape and still kick like that.
They got a lot of guys can do that.
Even when you don't ask.
Yeah. 3rd down and 5, the situation now. Viking ball at their own 33-yard line. Straight ahead. Now Dallas might be calling a timeout. 18 seconds left to go. in the first half. Dallas had all 3 of their timeouts left, and that was a Cowboy timeout just called.
There was no use saving timeouts, you know.
No.
Coaches used to say, save those timeouts. You'd get through with the game, you still had those timeouts left, and everybody was dying. Might as well use them.
You can't bank them, can you?
No interest.
Fourth down situation for Neil Clabo and the Vikings. And the Cowboys would like to get close enough to at least get Herrera in range.
Sort of a funny call by Fran, really, on third down, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Clabo. Butch Johnson is deep for Dallas, number 86. They almost blocked it again. Flag goes down. They did run into Clabo that time, and that ought to just about take care of the first half. Thomas Henderson, I believe, is the guy who ran into Clabo. Watch it.
They've served warning, though. They're going to get one. They've got 3 people close to this one, and that was just missed by a fraction.
I believe it was number 59 who actually made the contact. That's Guy Brown, the linebacker from Houston. And there's the walk-off. It was not intentional, so it's only 5.
But it is a first down, and now
Running
we'll see
into
if
the kicker, number 59, defense.
That was Guy Brown.
Well, let's see if Fran goes to the outside a couple of times, throws something safe. Deep sideline, which is very safe. That's not as safe as the deep sideline, I'll tell you that.
First down for Francis. Based on the last series, I think they just run it out. That's what he's going to do. Miller ducks underneath. Randy White makes sure he stays down, and the clock runs down at the end of the first half. The Vikings, who scored on their first possession. A key run by Sammy Johnson, and a touchdown pass from Fran Tarkenton to Chuck Foreman, got the Vikings that lead. It was a 40-yard field goal by Efren Herrera that accounts for the Dallas 3. So, at the half, the Minnesota Vikings lead the Dallas Cowboys. The score is 7-3.
Now it's time for the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, Dallas and Minnesota, of course, 7-3 at halftime, with Minnesota leading the game at their home ballpark in Bloomington, Minnesota. And everybody expected this to be a tough ball game, and it is. Of course, Fran Tarkenton this time hands off to Sammy White, who breaks off his left guard and moves upfield for a 25-yard gain around the Dallas 25-yard line. Tarkenton this time elects to go through the air and picks out his favorite receiver, Chuck Foreman, who latches onto it, 10 yards, touchdown Minnesota, the only touchdown of the first half. The Cowboys get on the board with a 33-yard field goal from Efren Herrera, 7-3 at halftime.
And right now, let's go back to Bloomington, Minnesota. Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire. Pat?
All right, Brent, thank you very much. Tom, I think over the years that we've watched the Vikings play, you get sort of the feeling that they're not all that impressive, but they just stifle you.
Well, the first play of the game, the pass play by Tarkenton, really was an interception pass.
Right.
But instead of that, Harris runs into Kyle. Ahmad Rashad gets hurt, but they don't get the INT on the very first play, which would have been deep. And you seem to make the bad play, and the Vikings seem to wait for you not to make your good play all the time. I know it sounds weird.
And by the way, Ahmad Rashad, who was hurt on that first play, has not come back. Our word was that he had a slight concussion, maybe or maybe not be back. But that's a big loss for the Vikings. As far as Dallas is concerned, of course, all of us were waiting for the debut of Tony Dorsett. He's carried the ball, to my recollection, 3 times and has picked up almost no yards.
Well, you know, it's a crazy thing, but Archie Griffin, when he came in, his first game, he had 38 yards on 12 carries. Steve Owens with Detroit had no rushing yardage at all his first game. Capoletti had 3 yards on 1 carry, and O.J. Simpson only had 35 yards on 10 carries. So I don't know what Gale Sayers did his first game. That might scare me, but we've got to wait for Dorsett to really show us what we've been hearing all about.
There have been a lot of top-flight backs who have not had auspicious beginnings, and so far, it's too early to judge, of course, Dorsett has not done all that well.
I think that Roger Staubach really has not been the smooth quarterback that we're used to seeing. I think he overthrew Billy Joe Dupree down in the end zone, which I think was a touchdown. Tarkenton has been fantastic as always, you know.
The preceding announcement was brought to you as a public service by the National Football League. And two of the outstanding members of the National Football League, the Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings, locked in the kind of battle we expected. Minnesota leading 7-3.
Tarkenton's been intercepted twice, but sort of an incredible first half when you think about it. 9 for 19 for 124 yards, and he's very close to 42,000 for the career. Staubach 6 for 10 for 63. Again, he overthrew the touchdown pass that, you know, Roger will not do, and of course he's sound and he's very healthy, and I don't know, I would imagine the second half we might see a lot of points for two good defensive teams to probe around the first half and find out what will and what won't go, and I think they've probably done it. The coaching staffs of these teams are not guessing. They know exactly what will and what will not work.
The bright sunshine is out on a warm, humid day.
Even Grant's assistant coaches run. Now they've stopped. He stopped watching it.
Right. It is Minnesota 7, Dallas 3 as the Cowboys send out their special team right there. Tom Landry's had his chance to speak with his group. And Bud Grant with his.
At 54 in the middle of your field is Randy White in the middle of your screen. He takes up almost the whole field. Somebody was laughing before the game, one of the Cowboys, and said he went over and stood on the infield and killed the grass over there.
Yeah.
He is tough.
Just taking exercises.
There he is.
Flattened the mound.
All he wants to do is play football as well as he possibly can, and that's his driving ambition, and he's doing a pretty good job of it.
Red Cox, the Minnesota kicker. Butch Johnson. And the rookie from Florida, Larry Brinson, back deep. For Dallas, Red Cox. How many times do you think he's done this? It's going to be Brinson. Fumbles it. Johnson picks it up. Flag goes down about the 30-yard line as Johnson struggles out to about the 20, where he's stopped by Phil Wise. And the Vikings got in a trade with the Jets.
Holding on the Dallas Cowboys.
Holding penalty against Dallas. The referee again is Pat Haggerty. Haggerty is number 40 in the striped shirt. Walking things off and walking back to the 10-yard line. Let's see who it was.
Holding number 57 on the run back.
57 is Bruce Hunter.
Can you imagine if they'd had that when we were all playing?
What, holding or talking?
Telling people who did it? That's embarrassing.
Oh. First and 10 at the 11-yard line, the opening play of the second half. Running backs are Newhouse and Pearson, and this is Pearson. Preston Pearson struggles out to about the 13, where Fred McNeil, who has replaced Wally Hilgenberg in that Minnesota defense, makes the tackle.
Pearson had 38 yards rushing on 7 carries, about the most effective Dallas rusher against this team. Again, these linebackers for the Vikings, the secondary, those guys played another game, but the linebackers, McNeil and Seaman and Blair, are extremely fast, and the Viking defense is a very, very quick one.
Dallas has a 2nd and 8 situation now. 14 more minutes of play left in the third quarter. Staubach. Newhouse had it, juggled it, and went out of bounds, juggling. And now bangs himself in the head with the ball because he juggled.
Pretty good fake here by Roger. Again, he gets outside of Marshall. You can see the linebackers and everybody going back to cover. He just does get the ball off before he gets near the line of scrimmage, but they were checking him. Simply an INC, that's all. Pretty good effort, though, by Newhouse.
Just didn't quite get it down in time. So it'll be 3rd down, Dallas. That's what they've done when they've faced this situation before. Dallas has been able to convert it 2 out of 7 times. Minnesota 2 out of 6. Right now it's 3rd and 8. Staubach. That'll be a screen. Got away from Page. And now he throws. And out of bounds. Butch Johnson was the guy who was close, and there's a flag down. Staubach is down back in the end zone.
Sutherland is really mad because he gave Roger Staubach a heck of a shot back in the end zone, and Roger, being the great athlete, just balances aside. Now watch this. He's trying to screen left, and they've tied up the screen man. There's the shot by Sutherland. Very smart play here, and notice how Butch Johnson tried to make it look good.
There was an illegal receiver downfield. The Vikings, already having Dallas pinned down close to their own end zone, have chosen to use up that down, so it'll be 4th down Cowboys and 8 at their own 13. They must have really tied
Ineligible
up.
men downfield. Offense declined. 4th down.
That happens on the screen, though, when it doesn't develop right away because the linemen hold a couple of counts and then go ahead and move.
And Minnesota, being a veteran defensive team, was able to read screen in a hurry and tie it up. Danny White standing in his own end zone. Minnesota not trying to block it. White gets off a good kick. Bob Grimm drops it. I believe the Vikings got it back. Dallas had a chance, but the Vikings got it back at their own 45. Bob Grimm looking up into what is a very difficult sun right now. Couldn't find a handle.
But Patrick, and you can watch this replay and you'll see it all. A veteran team looks for the fumbles. When you're young and you're inexperienced and you're bushy-tailed, you just run around banging people and you don't fall on the fumble.
All competing,
all in one car,
and live. Foreman straight ahead, inside Dallas territory to the 47-yard line. Stopped by Randy White.
Right off Mick Tingelhoff, number 53. By the way, he is playing in his 211th consecutive football game, which breaks Jim Otto's record, the great Oakland Raider double zero. But 53 has been in their 211 straight contests.
Mick has even given up the high-top shoes. He looks 5 years younger.
Yeah, look at that. He's got the racy jobs on.
Yeah. 2nd down, 4. That's McClanahan looking for a place to go. He fumbles. Foreman picks it up and gets it. Minnesota 1st down. Benny Barnes got Foreman down.
Like it was supposed to happen, though.
Yeah.
It's almost an exchange the way they fumble it to one another.
Gosh, did you ever forget that Thanksgiving Day game with the snow and Heller picked up a fumble and was running down the field and fired a lateral about 30 yards across the field to one of the other defensive linemen like they'd been working on it forever. 1st down, Minnesota at the 42-yard line of Dallas. 1st and 10. Foreman steps out of the couple.
Incredible. No way he makes the corner, much less making a yardage. And I'll be darned if he didn't do it. And you're right, at 206, he is even quicker. And he always used to be able to put his legs in one direction and a body in the other. You think this guy wouldn't be a heck of a skier at Vail or Sun Valley. Watch him get over to the sideline. Dede gets one shot at him, Dede Lewis. Nobody keeps their balance and runs that thing like that.
Good blocking effort by Bob Grimm, who has replaced Ahmad Rashad, taken up on the 1st play of the game. 2nd and 3 situation. Tarkenton fakes it to McClanahan and throws to McClanahan. Underthrows. He was open.
Well, Roger had one, and now Fran has one. Watch number 10. Fakes to the strong side of the formation and just goes back to his back that left the backfield and simply doesn't throw cork. Incredible.
So it'll be a 3rd down situation for Minnesota. Sammy White is one wide receiver, number 85. The other is Bob Grimm. It is 3rd and 3. They operate from the Dallas 35. He had forever. Du Bois to the 11.
All right, watch this. He's actually trying to hit Chuck Foreman, who goes to the right side of your picture, and Harvey Martin grabbed him and strangled him. And now Fran finds nobody. Uh-oh, he forgot about his tight end. He'll find Voigt. As you said, Pat, he came out of the ground. And there he is. Missed tackle by Tom Henderson, and now there's a race. And Cliff Harris will come into this picture very quickly and put the clamps on.
1st and 10 for Minnesota at the Cowboy 11. They already lead 7-3. Chuck Foreman inside the 10, stopped by Jethro Pugh. Stu Voigt has caught 4 passes already for a total of 64 yards. He doesn't look like much, but he sure gets it done.
When Fran's in trouble, he looks for him too, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, and usually finds him.
Here's a drive that looked like it had no chance, and they're knocking, and this would be a big touchdown.
Sammy White splits wide to the left. Green comes to the right. 2nd down and 7. Tarkenton looking for White. It was batted down. Too Tall Jones, I believe, is the guy who got the big mid on it.
Let's see if they run a stunt. They do. They bring the defensive ends up the middle, and Too Tall at 6'9", 270. Boy, it's like throwing it over an office building. Came out sideways.
Ball just bounces there. Tom Landry. That was emotion from Landry.
Yep. Checking real grass.
At the 8-yard line. It is 3rd down and 7. Again, plenty of time for Tarkenton. And the chase was on, and Tarkenton goes down. Harvey Martin, Landry, and Golden Richards, both yelling encouragement.
And I mean, Harvey Martin comes a long way. Again, Fran had a lot of time. The Vikings are really giving Fran the protection. Foreman was covered down the middle. Here comes White. Look at this effort. That'll be on the radio program in Dallas, I'm sure, on Monday morning.
The report on Ahmad Rashad is that he was knocked out on that first play. That he will not play anymore today. He is staying in the locker room, in fact. Fred Cox with Paul Krause at the 31, so it'll be a 41-yard attempt. No good. Wide to the right by Cox, and Dallas will take it over at that line of scrimmage.
How big was the pass rush by Harvey Martin? They don't get 3, they don't get 7. Minnesota gets 6.
Was a factor, and a big one. So it's still Minnesota 7, Dallas 3. The Cowboys take it over at their own 24. There's Bud Grant, and of course Fran Tarkenton standing by him.
Like they're doing Saturday Night Live.
Pearson Newhouse, the running backs behind Staubach. Drew Pearson in motion. And the end around to him, and he circles around behind Carl Eller. Gets away from a couple, and look at that. Boy, what an athlete he is.
Carl Eller's walking around like, where was everybody? Eller couldn't have played it better. Look at him. Number 81 says, that's about as good as I can play it. Came across, set up, cut off the reverse completely. How did Pearson make yardage on that?
He did it all on his own. James White, number 72, comes in. And Doug Sutherland goes out. The Minnesota front four then has White, Eller, Marshall, and Page. That was enough for a first down by Drew Pearson. Ball at the Minnesota 35 now. Straight ahead, Newhouse. Met by Seaman and the rest. And got nothing.
Big James White was just put in there in place of Sutherland. Darn Grant knows, doesn't he?
I don't believe there's really anybody on the other end of that headset.
He's only got 6 other coaches. And, you know, they've been with him right from the start. Most of them are about 89-year veterans with him, too. Johnny Michaels. And
Neil Armstrong, Jerry Burns and bunch.
They just low-key it, but they do a pretty good job.
1-yard pickup by Newhouse, and Staubach goes deep. For Dupree, he got it. In Minnesota territory, Billy Joe Dupree, the big tight end at the 40.
The reason this works for Roger, and you're right behind the Dallas quarterback right now, is because his tight end, Billy Joe, gets great depth. He got beyond the linebackers and the under part of the zone. You can see how much depth he got. So that Bryant, and of course he's 5'10.5" or 11 anyway, had no chance to keep what happened from happening.
Bud Grant, and that young man kneeling there to Grant's right is Tommy Kramer from Rice, who is the heir apparent to Tarkenton's job, I guess you'd have to say. He had such a great year in college last year on first down. Staubach will throw or try. At the 50, James White, Alan Page, and Jim Marshall meet at the quarterback.
I tell you, Drew Pearson was running a pattern to the right side of your screen up, and he drew 2 safety men and a cornerback. So Golden Richards, or Butch Johnson, looks like he's open, but Roger thought he was going to get that ball deflected out of his hand.
2nd and 19 situation coming up now. Tom Landry. They call the play for Roger Staubach. Outside Newhouse. Matt Blair right with him, and Newhouse couldn't hang it.
Talk about a game of inches, though. What an effort by Newhouse, who has made some of the most incredible incompletions we've seen. Now watch this. Roger has to throw it in a hurry. Carl Eller's breathing right down his pads. Look at this effort by Newhouse. You think these teams aren't full out today. Preseason is definitely over.
Out goes White on 3rd down. 19 yards to go, an extra defensive back comes in. Ball to Minnesota 49-yard line. 7 minutes, 43 seconds left, 3rd period. Minnesota 7, Dallas 3.
And they're in that 34. 3 men down.
3 men to rush. Salvey goes in motion. Low snap again. Deep. Intended for Drew Pearson, nothing doing. Coverage by Nate Wright was excellent.
Roger and that whole offense sagged a little bit on that series, and the crowd here is telling the Vikings what they think.
They love it. The last time Minnesota lost, as a matter of fact, on this field was in the playoffs 2 years ago on that spectacular catch by Drew Pearson, which Bud Grant and group still claim was illegal. Danny White. Straight away with this one. Bob Grimm up with a hand at the 7. Fair catch there, and he juggled it just a bit.
Saw a lot of that hog bladder again.
Yes, sir. Staubach, by the way, on the day is 7 out of 15 for 86 yards. Fran Tarkenton is 10 out of 22 for 148 yards. Minnesota leads the Cowboys 7-3. Minnesota has the football at their own 5-yard line, 1st and 10.
Last time he was down deep, Fran came out throwing all over the place.
This time he gives to Miller. And Miller meets opposition quickly. Thomas Henderson led the charge. Let's check what happened earlier in the day in the event you might have missed it. Atlanta upset Los Angeles 17-6. Philadelphia. All these are finals, by the way. Philadelphia over Tampa Bay 13-3. The Giants upset Washington 20-17. Cleveland, I guess you'd call this an upset, wouldn't you, Tom? 13-3 over Cincinnati.
And an emphatic one, too.
And New England with a struggle over Kansas City 21-17. Miami 13, Buffalo nothing, a shutout. Miller comes in motion for the Vikings on 2nd and 8. Tarkenton drops in the end zone, throws deep. A flag is down. The pass is complete. Bob Brunig tackled Bob Grimm, but a flag is down.
Riley was holding Harvey Martin. Harvey Martin took a big rush from the right defensive end spot, and the big offensive tackle, I believe, just had to grab him and hold on.
While we were waiting, this also a final score. The Bears under Jack Pardee 30-20 over Detroit, and Green Bay over New Orleans 24-20. And that's a rundown of all the final scores that we have. There are a couple other games still in progress other than this one. And let's see what the indication is here.
And
from Pat Haggerty.
What this is going to lead up to is going to be now a blocked punt or now a fumble snap or something is going to become more important as we're into this second half. The number of offensive plays you have are going to sort of be limited. Now you want the breaks. Let's listen.
Holding, number 78, offense.
78 is Steve Riley, who is blocking on Harvey Martin. Third quarter score now, Baltimore over Seattle 16-7, but it doesn't sound like that's too easy either, does it?
Never is with Patera. He might be playing. Jack might be out there with the Seattle team.
Houston over the Jets 7-0. That's a halftime score in Houston. Tarkenton back in his own end zone. Looking for Sammy White, finds Chuck Foreman. Another flag is down. Foreman still struggling, trying to get off the dirt where he can get some good traction. Thomas Henderson again in part of the wrestling match, trying to get Chuck Foreman down.
Foreman had hooked up in there. It's going to be pushing against Minnesota, which meant that Foreman was probably protecting himself against the linebacker, and the guy that you see the palms of the hands of when he shoves off gets called. Fran isn't going to like that one a bit. I tell you, I wondered why he was so open right around second base.
You can see a lot of people get very nervous. Let's listen to Pat Haggerty first.
83, offense.
And it's called against Stu Boyd.
So the Phantom strikes again.
Yeah. Denver and St. Louis, the Broncos leading 7-0 third period. That's supposed to be the biggest crowd ever to witness a sporting event in your state.
75,000, and Denver has a defense that is bristling. It's really fierce.
At the half, Oakland 17, San Diego nothing. The Raiders had 3 shutouts in preseason. Second and 14, and the end zone doesn't bother this guy. Out of bounds, Fran Tarkenton goes at about the 10-yard line. Mel Renfro.
That's the reason number 10's so healthy. That'd have been in Canadian football, he might have scored.
Got back a few precious yards, 8 in fact, and it'll make it 3rd and 6 now. 6:37 left in the third period. Minnesota 7, Dallas 3.
If he ever wanted a third down conversion, this is it, because Neil Clabo right now isn't even breathing.
And keep in mind that if they do have to punt, the Cowboys, particularly Charlie Waters, have come very close to blocking a couple of punts. So Fran Tarkenton now. Ball right at the 10-yard line, 3rd and 6. Looks like a blitz might be coming. It was. Tarkenton unloads right down the middle, getting away from the blitz.
He did 2 Veronicas to get the ball out of there.
I believe it's going to be roughing the passer against Dallas. Tarkenton fired down the middle just at the last second.
It's a pretty tough call. I thought it was Kyle that moved in quickly to make the blitz. It's going to be an automatic first down, too. That was a big one.
At the 25, they'll bring it. Let's see who did it.
Personal foul. Roughing the passer. Number 54, defense, first down.
I got to argue a little bit. When a quarterback is running around like he has been running around throwing the football, you just can't wait to launch all the time. You got to let it fly.
Number 54 is Randy White. That's who they called it against. Ball is out at the 25-yard line. And as Tom Brookshire said, it's an automatic first down. 6.5 minutes left, third quarter. Only been 1 touchdown, that on the first offensive series of the game. Robert Miller, wrapped up by Robert Brunig and Thomas Henderson.
Pretty clever, though. Fran came right back and tried to finesse Randy White, knowing that number 54 is breathing fire for being called for roughing him. They tried to run a trap play on him, and Dallas defense covered up well.
So it'll be second down, about 10 still. 9.5 perhaps. About a yard by Miller.
I feel like I'm sitting on a powder keg, and the crowd senses the same thing, don't they?
Something's got to happen. Fake is to Miller. The pass is to Foreman. He fumbles. Charlie Waters has it. Waters. The flag goes down. Waters at the 30. Inside the 30 to about the 28-yard line, but there's a flag down It may be Aaron Kyle's violation.
Here's the sprint out off the inside fake, so the linebackers have sort of been sucked into the middle. Carried a little bit loosely and tackled from behind. That was Ed Too Tall Jones. Now here is the saga. Whatever took place, Pat, I believe you're right. I believe Kyle just tackled somebody straight from behind.
Stu Voigt, I believe, is the guy that he hit. And I thought for a minute that Voigt might have hurt his knee.
Personal foul. Clipping on the run back. Dallas. First down.
First down, Cowboys at their own 44-yard line. 5 minutes, 43 seconds left, third period. Vikings lead 7-3. Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire. Bloomington, Minnesota. Golden Richards comes left and Drew Pearson goes right. Dupree in motion. Forward handoff to Newhouse. And after all that shifting and dancing, nothing doing.
Alan Page lines up about 1 inch from Fitzgerald's nose, the offensive center, and how he moved laterally along the line of scrimmage that quickly and made the tackle on the line of scrimmage standing up. I don't even think Alan Page knows. An incredible performance.
Golden Richards goes out and Butch Johnson comes in. That's the way Tom Landry is calling the play. He's shuttling his wide receivers. Drew Pearson splits left. Johnson is right. Staubach. Down the middle. Billy Joe Dupree, I believe he got it. Well, that's a fine throw by Staubach.
In between, and a great catch. Think about how much concentration it takes to have purple jerseys on about 3 sides of you, and then have Roger step up and throw that thing low, and all you want to do is make the catch. Watch now what happens. In the regular 4-man front, they just take everybody by, and Roger steps up inside.
That guy doing the job there is Herbert Scott, number 68. Here's Staubach going deep for Drew Pearson. Bobby Bryant back there with him. Let's see what Herbert Scott did that time.
Passing situation now. It's almost given up right away. Let's see how Scott and Page make out this time. He's getting penetration, but Scott has excellent position. As long as Roger can see the white jersey, he knows he's still all right.
Well, that's a good job by Herbert Scott. There's a guy who will know about it. And it probably already does. 3rd and 10.
I want him defending me, I'll tell you that.
I want him with me. Staubach drops back deep. Fitzgerald snap is good. Rogers going for the bunch. Out of bounds, Pearson well covered by Nate Wright. They're not in field goal range either. Danny White and punting unit come on for Dallas. It is still Minnesota 7, Dallas 3.
You can't cry wolf too often. If you get that ball, somebody's going to have to make points out of it. The last team with the ball may win this game.
47,678 in attendance. That's what Danny White has done. He's at his own 44. Bob Grimm standing back at the Minnesota 10. See if he goes straight away or if he tries. Somebody jumped. Talking to Alan Page. It's against Dallas.
D.D. Lewis, the linebacker, is the person that snaps back for the punter. 2 or 3 Minnesota people came over, so they must have been drawn.
Offensive line.
Cowboys get back in that punt formation again. Just over 3.5 minutes left in the 3rd period.
He's going to try to go for the corner again. He nailed one on the 2 earlier.
That one sliced a bit. Miller sees it bounce, goes through Grimm's leg. I don't know if he touched it or not. The Cowboys tried to down it. They think it should be a touchdown.
I saw a touchback signal, though. I did not see the TD arms raised by anybody but the Cowboys.
They're saying that Grimm touched the ball. Charlie Waters is still hot and arguing.
But that would be a muff and not a fumble if he had attempted to try to catch it. But I didn't think he tried to catch it. I thought it just glanced. It's going to be an argument here.
The ball hit the ground, went past Grimm. And so it's Minnesota football at the 20. And the Cowboys are still yelling on the sideline at the officials that Bob Grimm touched that ball. And if he had, it would have been a touchdown.
The official was down in that area, but he was around the goal line and not at about the 7 or 8 where that probably took place, Pat.
That's right.
And you know those players don't lie either.
They do argue, though. Whatever, that argument is to no avail, and Minnesota has the football at their own 20. Let's look.
Close.
Very close. Time, the Trenton 150, televised live. Van Tarkenton gives to Foreman. Foreman is taken down behind the line of scrimmage by Harvey Martin.
Dallas defense right now is really nasty. The last series down near the goal line, every tackle is a little extra. That time Harvey really pinned the legs together and sort of got up and slapped them back down on Foreman like, okay, we're going to settle it here, let's settle it. But it's going to get rough.
I thought it was interesting the way the Viking players were approaching this game. Somebody asked them if they wanted to. They would prefer to play an easy team in an opener. And they said, heck no. Let's get on with it.
What'd Foreman say? Who wants to play Tampa?
They play next week. Second down situation, and Tarkenton gives back to Foreman. Foreman doesn't get much. Flag goes down. He tried to run a reverse and did execute it, but Dallas was not confused at all. Charlie Waters and Cliff Harris, the two safety men, converge.
We might have a crackback, I think, from the outside, perhaps, or holding. It was thrown in the direction of the outside blocker that came in and hit Harvey Martin in the back. You can do it upstairs, but you can't go down below.
Harvey Martin indicating or talking to the bench and getting the indication from them that they would like the penalty.
If you block too tall Jones, you'd have to block him low.
Yeah. See who did it.
Holding, number 83, offense.
Stu Voigt.
I think Stu Voigt was the one that came from the outside on Harvey Martin.
They've turned on the lights. The clouds have come back. We've got a whole quarter of football left, plus 2.5 minutes.
Snow is imminent. We may get a snow yet.
It's humid enough. Second and 21 situation for Minnesota at their own 9-yard line. Tarkenton dropped. Pressure was on. Francis throws to Foreman, who fumbled. Now they call it an incomplete pass. Thomas Henderson whacked Foreman in the back and knocked the ball loose. And you could almost hear the fans again breathe a deep sigh of relief because it looked like Foreman might have had that.
Right now, the group you see is fighting for its life because Dallas is extremely physical. This defensive team right now is Ernie Stautner and those guys must have pumped them up on the sidelines and said, let's go out and get some raw meat or something because they're really beating on people.
Ernie pumped himself up. He's out on the field.
Nobody played any tougher than Ernie Stautner.
No, sir. Third and 21 situation, 2 minutes, 24 seconds left, third quarter. Minnesota 7, Dallas 3. Tarkenton again goes deep. Throwing deep. Picked off by Cliff Harris. His second interception of the day at the 45. Harris gives the Cowboys the ball back.
All right. Fran Tarkenton throwing from deep in his own territory, and they've been flirting with disaster down here the entire quarter. And the guy from Ouachita College, well, I'll tell you, that is fingertip control. I don't know how he got control of the ball. Second INT for 43, huh?
Right. Third for Dallas. Henderson got one. Harris has two.
Brand didn't look anybody off either. He went right to the deep target and didn't give the secondary much to worry about.
It is still Pearson and Newhouse, the running backs for the Cowboys. At the 45-yard line of Minnesota on first down. Staubach pitches back to Pearson. Got a couple of blocks, but that Minnesota defense pursues so well, you don't fool anybody in that veteran group.
Tell you, that little Jeff Wright, number 23, threw his 180 pounds in there and almost wrecked that play and took a heck of a beating. And you're right, they really cover for one another.
A gain of perhaps 3, make it 2nd and 7. Bud Grant and his arm.
Each of those coaches is pretty disciplined, though, and pretty much in control all the time,
sir.
huh?
I'll say. Staubach is looking and throwing. Pearson the catch. Inside the 40, but he's down. Matt Blair was close to him.
Well, that was some catch.
It really was. You have to admire that guy.
You know how many Super Bowl rings he's got? 3. Colts, Pittsburgh, Dallas.
Dallas.
If they go back again, he's going to get another arm.
Wonder which one he likes best. The last one, I imagine.
Collateral loan time.
Yeah. A third down situation, and 3. At the Minnesota 39, Staubach drops. No shotgun. Now he's chased. Now look at those two coaches. A sack that takes Dallas out of Minnesota territory. And Tom Landry just puts his notes away. And Bud Grant says, come on, we got to go.
That's that big James White, the second-year tackle from Oklahoma State. Watch the left part of your screen. He tries to run a stunt with Eller, and he just ran over the top of everybody.
So it's Danny White. Deep from Minnesota is Bob Grimm. It was almost disaster the last time White punted. He hangs a good one this time, and Grimm is coming over to field it. It bounces away again, and Bob Grimm gets the rebound. Wow, I'm telling you. Baltimore-Seattle score now, 19-7. The Colts. That's in the third period at Seattle. 18 seconds left at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota. See what happened in baseball today. Boston beat Baltimore 10-4.
That chase still isn't over in baseball, is it?
Not by any means. The Yankees, we showed you earlier, beat Detroit 6-5, so the Yankees pick up a full game on Baltimore. That ought to put them out in front by 3.5. Here's Tarkenton giving to Foreman, who breaks one, but doesn't get away from Bob Brunig and the ever-present Cliff Harris.
You've seen 2 defensive units, though, just take the other offense and sit on it. The second half, the big plays have been made by people that used to be obscure on the line of scrimmage, huh?
All right. As Tom Landry applauds, that's the end of the third quarter. We now pause for word from your local station. Minnesota has 15 first downs on the day. Dallas has only 8. And Randy White is loosening up behind the Cowboy bench. Fran Tarkenton now with Chuck Foreman and Robert Miller, the running backs. I beg your pardon, it's McClanahan and nothing doing for Foreman.
You want to see what it looks like on the line of scrimmage? There's Tingelhoff. He's been doing that for 16 years. Now watch what happens on the snap. Remember, the poor center starts every one of them. There's Randy White, Goodrum, Brunig, Tutaw. Don't ask me how they do not have more injuries on that line of scrimmage than they do. That is a war on each snap. In fact, the only reason there's not a fight is they have to go back to the huddle, both teams.
3rd and 5 situation for Minnesota. Tarkenton to throw. Or trying to, and throws. Cliff Harris almost came up with the interception. It was intended for Chuck Foreman. Larry Cole, the veteran, is the one that put the heat on Tarkenton. And boy, over the years, how many times have we seen him come up with the big play?
That's the truth. Strong as a mule, too. There's Danny White.
Danny White loosening over there. Standing behind the Minnesota bench. That looks sort of odd, doesn't it?
Not safe.
Play ball. Off the side of his foot, Butch Johnson chasing it over there and fields it. Johnson, with a good effort, got back close to midfield. Bob Grimm is the guy who got him out of bounds, but Dallas, because of that fine effort by Johnson, will have the ball. Tom Brookshire. Opening day of the NFL season number 58.
Well, I was right. They got a lot of points there that third period, didn't they?
Yeah, just waiting for the fuse to go off. 7-3 the score, Minnesota over Dallas. The Cowboys are going to put it up. Or they're going to try to put it up. Carl Eller and James White.
All right, Carl Eller working against Donovan. Let's see what happens. Carl gets the initial, gets straightened up. Now Donovan loses the feet and didn't keep him going. Roger could see 81 all the way. Almost gets away with it. Almost isn't good enough, is it?
And again, a very difficult situation for the Cowboys. 2nd and 19. Ball at their own 39. Tony Hill split wide to the right. Again, Staubach in trouble. Fires up the middle of Newhouse. And Newhouse, still struggling, gets close to the original line of scrimmage. Back to about the 48-yard line. Hard to get him down.
Roger had trouble getting that ball off, and he threw one you could catch from either end. Watch this. Here comes the rush, and I'll tell you, the Vikings are really coming. That's Page coming on the stump from the outside. Now watch that ball. Newhouse had to wait too long. That's the reason he's charged up.
That big guy, James White, looks like some strong fellow. He's giving Rafford his tip. Shotgun. 3rd down and about 9. Intended for Pearson. He missed it. He was open. Bobby Bryant on the coverage. Roger just overthrew. Watch it.
Now watch them exchange men. Rafferty takes Eller coming inside, and White was taken by Donovan, and that ball just simply thrown beyond Pearson.
The applause is for the defense. Staubach and Landry on the left. Bud Grant, the stoic one on the right. Keep in mind now, as Dallas goes into punt formation, that Danny White, the punter, has been loosening that arm. Good kick. Up with the fair catch signal was Joe Blaha. At the 10, the Vikings will take it over.
Notice how the good teams, though, all have good kicking games. They all have the consistent 40-yard field goal man, and they all have a punter that can drop it inside the 20.
Minnesota still owns that lead of 4 points, 7-3 over Dallas. And we have 12 minutes and 36 seconds remaining in the game. It's been a day for defense. Neither quarterback has had outstanding success. And these are two of the best, but they're also two of the best defenses. Moynihan was in motion. Tarkenton now running and throwing. Incomplete. Intended for Stu Voigt.
Pat, you and I were sitting around yesterday, and Mike Ditka and Dan Reeves came in on the Cowboy coaching staff. And they said even 7 or 8 years ago, you could get an offense together and teach someone quickly. And the defenses now are so sophisticated, they're so changeable, that he said it's almost incredible to put together a game plan without having to junk it by the first period or something. It's really
so true, and I think, Tom, that's one of the reasons we haven't seen more of Tony Dorsett.
That's right.
2nd down and 10. Ball on the 10. The draw play to Foreman. A lot of juking, but not much yardage. Foreman down at the 13 by Randy White. There is Tony Dorsett. He made no bones about saying he was most unhappy about not starting.
Well, he's going to have to learn, too, that, you know,
Yep.
he doesn't want to carry the entire load on his shoulders, and this team is a pretty good football team a year ago, and with him, when he gets the gears all meshed, it's going to be dynamite.
There is Mike Ditka, the guy Tom was just talking about putting that offense together. What has become such a great challenge. Third down for Tarkenton now. Being chased and being caught by Harvey Martin. Harvey Martin on a stunt up the middle. Randy White came to the outside. Watch this.
Speaking of waiting for stardom, remember when Harvey Martin was just a big, young, good-looking defensive end? About that third year, it all made sense to number 79. And if there's anybody better against the run and the pass, you know, I have to see him.
There aren't many around. Back on the gravel. In the end of the end zone is Neil Claybo. And the Vikings are so far in their own territory that he can't get as far back as he normally would. He gets it out in nice fashion. Butch Johnson dropped it. Got it back. At the 34, the Cowboys will take over. They'll have it 1st and 10.
Claybo lost his footing making the punt. His left foot slipped, and he went down. I don't know how he got it out. We're talking about that. Watch. That's a pratfall.
Yeah. It's a dangerous game, even when nobody hits you.
You don't think he has big goose pimples right now, do you?
He hit the floor like Ray Bolger. At the 34. Inside handoff, Newhouse, who's inside the Vikings, 30 to the 29. Stopped by James White. Matt Blair.
White's been living with Roger Staubach. I imagine he wanted to try to get him to sit down a little bit. The big kid from Oklahoma State's been putting it down and just coming.
Yeah. Quiet him down by running at him.
Get his attention anyway.
2nd and 6, the 4-yard pickup by Newhouse, who is still one of the setbacks along with Pearson. Try it again, and Pearson ran into it. Little mix-up in the backfield there. Watch this collision.
Rafferty gets out of there. That's a real cross buck.
A cross knock. The 11 other guys aren't tough enough.
You got one play of the whole game, maybe? If you're thinking about the Dallas fortunes, this third down's a big biggie.
All right. Oakland 24, San Diego nothing. Third period. Golden Richards right. Staubach. Drop. For Pearson, he got it. Matt Blair got him out of bounds, but inside the 15-yard line, just barely. Ralph Neely is down, back on about the 40-yard line. There he is. Ralph Neely, the offensive tackle for Dallas for so many, many years, came to camp this year in better shape than ever.
Ralph said he really worked in the offseason on getting back to strength and all. You know, you sort of forget to do that when you've been around over 10 years. And Neely said he got himself in tremendous shape. And I'll tell you something, he's in pain right now.
Big Andy Frederick has replaced him. 6'6", 241 is Frederick. They've already lost Rayfield Wright. And now if they lose their other offensive tackle, let's see if we can find out what happened to Neely. Watch up at the top of your picture.
All right, let's take a look at it. Now, Neely's number 73. He'll be pass blocking. Gets that left leg caught under him a little bit, doesn't he? He's up walking off, though. You know what he yelled to me today when I saw him in the hotel lobby? He says, we'll have a good game. I said, don't worry about me, big fella. You're the one that's got to get hit.
That's funny. A lot of the Cowboys were saying to us, you guys have a good day. Have a good year.
They know it's tough. That's
Yeah.
why.
1st and 10, Dallas at the 15-yard line of Minnesota. Johnson in motion. Pearson with the ball, bangs to about the 10, perhaps inside. Preston Pearson, the ball carrier. Alan Page. Right at the 10 is Pearson.
And I see how tough that defense is for the Vikings. It makes me really appreciate the Oakland Raider offensive line, doesn't it?
It surely does.
If they could go in there and just take them apart in a big game.
What about that Oakland defense? At the Minnesota 10-yard line, Ralph Neely is back in the game at 2nd and 5. Fake. It is Pearson again to about the 5 or 6.5 yard line.
Now watch Neely's block. Big Ralph got across the line of scrimmage. Looked like he was back in Oklahoma. That's a very quick move. The right of your screen, you'll see Fitzgerald working, and Neely takes crossbody block on the linebacker there, McNeil.
Dallas 3rd down now. 3rd and 3. 8:50 left in this game. Minnesota leads 7-3. Staubach throws. Caught by Pearson. What a catch. And a touchdown, Dallas.
And Seaman had him covered right on the goal line, and he twisted his body around while he was being wrapped.
Miraculous catch by Preston Pearson.
Tough call. You can see they're having a double on Page, Fitzgerald and Scott. Now watch this throw, sidearm. I don't believe the catch.
Can't cover him any better. The Cowboys went 33 yards in 6 plays, and now our friend Herrera will try to make it 10-7 Dallas. They jump offside. He won't try quite yet. Flags all over the place. Offside Minnesota.
It's the most dangerous play in football. I know it looks like the point after. I mean, if you run across by accident and hit somebody like Randy White, you know, you can better have double indemnity. You're in trouble.
So Charlie Waters holding. A very important extra point here. Ben Herrera hits it. Dallas 10, Minnesota 7. Time remaining on that scoreboard, 8 minutes, 43 seconds in the 4th period. Herrera kicking off from the 40, not the 35, because the penalty on the extra point is now move it up. Herrera catches it pretty good. McClanahan over in the corner of the end zone watches it roll out through the gravel and up against the screen. (10-7) Dallas over Minnesota. The Vikings own the football at their own 20-yard line.
I'm trying to think back and see if we've seen most of the Minnesota offense. Fran hasn't let many plays go uncalled, but he might do some screens.
That's the time left in this opening game of 1977. McClanahan in motion, and Tarkenton goes to throw. Out to Foreman. Thomas Henderson right there. Henderson has great speed.
What a shot he gave Foreman. Foreman and he are talking about it. Henderson said, "You didn't have to catch it." Foreman said, "I won't next time, maybe."
He's still mumbling about it. Baltimore-Seattle situation. A little bit closer than it was. Baltimore got a field goal to make it 22. Seattle got a touchdown to make it 14. Tarkenton to Foreman. Trying to find some room, and does. Squirms to the outside before Benny Barnes, number 31, made the tackle. Did not get a first down, but will make it 3rd and about 2.5.
You think the head slap rule, where the linemen are no longer allowed to take that slap, is that going to affect either of these teams that we're watching, you think? Dallas used to use it a lot.
I think it affects the pass rush more than anything else.
I'm thinking of Too Tall Jones in particular. No, he used to use the slap because he's so tall.
Tarkenton's going to throw. Or try to. Randy White chasing him. It looks like a ballet dance back there as Tarkenton gets away from everybody and finally does throw. Robert Miller gets the room. Cliff Harris, the only man. In Dallas territory. What a job Tarkenton did.
There are no flags either. Watch this. This is the reason you can't give him X's and O's. And watch the dart he throws when he finds it. And I mean, it's right on. Good play here by Harris, who really had to make sure of contact. Get as much of the body as you can then.
So Minnesota moves into Dallas territory with 6 minutes, 48 seconds left to play. Dallas leads by 3, 10-7. The time you see in the right-hand corner of your screen. First and 10, Minnesota. It is Foreman swinging to the outside, and it's Foreman that's taken down on a great play by Harvey Martin.
I mean, Riley put a good block on Martin, too. The thing is, he's so fast and strong at the same time. He took the block, accepted that, and then just made the tackle. Anybody else thinking sudden death? In case things would stall down, Cox can kick him from 35. Then you go one extra period.
A new set of running backs on 2nd and 10 for Minnesota. It's Sammy Johnson and Mark Keller. But Francis is going to throw, you know. I guess not. That's McClanahan. He swings down to the 40. Dallas is thinking pass all the way. So was I.
Looks like they've tamed off the rush, too. The Vikings have gotten to him on the line of scrimmage a little bit. Perhaps Fran's run-around play before that pass tired them out a little bit, too.
Bud Grant had Robert Miller up ready to go into the game, but now he's just plotting. 3rd and 3. Fans start to stomp. And again, when Tarkenton is so valuable in a situation like this because he can run as well as throw.
Wow.
D.D. Lewis popped him out of bounds, but he got his first down.
You said it. And this time it's all run. He knows he's going to have to run with it. Now watch it. Boy, now he hot-puts it. And D.D. really gives him a shot. In fact, he goes almost under the Dallas bench.
Dangerous area. 5 minutes, 10 seconds left to play. Dallas 10, Minnesota 7. Pretty good way to start the season, Tom.
What a craftsman that Fran Tarkenton is. I'm amazed every time I watch him perform, I'll tell you.
Minnesota ball at the Dallas 36. Tarkenton. Harvey Martin just got picked off at the last minute. But the rush was what caused Tarkenton to underthrow. He used 5 seconds. Mosquito just got Bud Grant.
Yeah, the big problem was that mosquito that got Bud on the forearm. He's just churning, just eating up, isn't he? Last play, and the pocket is not safe.
Watch how close number 79 comes.
Watch to the center of your screen. Tingelhoff just picked him off in time.
Second and 10 situation now. 5:05 left to play. Straight ahead handoff is to McClanahan. To the 20. Aaron Kyle on the tackle, but what a call by Fran Tarkenton.
It looks like Waters, the safety man, and Brunig, the linebacker, get caught. A stunt by the Dallas defensive lineman, and they ran straight at the stunt, which is an excellent thing to do. You can see Waters there, and Kyle finally making the tackle.
At the Dallas 21, first and 10 Minnesota, 4.5 minutes left to play. Foreman. To the 12.
Ron Yeri and Wes Hamilton have done a heck of a job on that right side. The Dallas studs have to stop.
Clock still running. The Vikings huddling. Dallas has got their defense called. Less than 4 minutes. The Cowboys with a 3-point lead. The ball at the 12-yard line. 2nd and 1. McClanahan flux to the 10. I think he got the first down.
Now you're going to see it. You're going to see a defensive series now. Or the Vikings are going to walk away with the game, and there won't be anything left on that clock when they get through with it.
Both teams have all their timeouts left. It is 1st and goal from the 9. The most helpless feeling that you could possibly imagine is the feeling that Tom Landry has right now. Just over 3 minutes left to play. Tarkenton gives to Foreman. And Foreman got perhaps one before Brunig and Harvey Martin wrapped him up, put him down.
Now Dallas is gambling a little bit on defense. Fran Tarkenton can spread out or roll or do almost anything, and he might have ducked inside for the last time and tested him in there. Let's see if he's going to sort of dangle something in front of him.
This drive began at the Minnesota 20. It's 2nd and goal with the 8 now. 2.5 minutes left to play. He gets again to Foreman. Nothing doing. Charlie Waters with that clutch tackle.
What a tackle.
Bud Grant has an idea what he wants done. He has told McClanahan, and now he calls Sammy Johnson. And Johnson comes in.
Well, watch this now, and Waters makes the tackle. He used to be just a good-looking athlete, but he has worked on his physical development so much that he made a very strong tackle.
2 minutes left to play. And both Bud Grant and Tom Landry will be advised of that. They'll get visits from quarterbacks and defensive signal callers. 10-7, Dallas. The clock shows 2 minutes left. The scoreboard shows Dallas 10, Vikings 7. If you look at the field, though, you see that Minnesota has the 3rd and goal at the 9.
But you got to be careful. If you got 5 receivers out there, you don't want to give the ball up now. Cox is ready if this 3rd down play fails.
There's Grant still looking on. Fran Tarkenton still directing the attack against the Dallas defense. They do not blitz. He called Jones, takes him down. Ed Jones and Larry Cole, the guys who put the pressure on Fran Tarkenton.
Here he comes. And remember Tutall's been working against Ron Yary. That was some pass rush.
It sure was. Paul Krause is the holder.
15 years, Fred Cox has been looking pressure right in the face. He said the other day, well, I guess I've seen about all kinds, but he's in a pretty darn pressurized position right now, I'll tell you.
It is going to be a 35-yard attempt. Cox had a lot of competition in training camp, but that experience is one reason they kept him and not the other guy. It's good. Minnesota 10, Dallas 10. A minute 35 left to play.
Bud Grant almost smiled, but not quite. At least he didn't yell at Johnny Michaels.
Maybe we ought to run down the ground rules right here, Tom, of what will happen if the game ends like this. Fred Cox. Mosquitoes are still biting Bud Grant, no matter whether he tied the score or not. A minute 35 left to play. A drive by the Vikings to tie it. There'll be a 3-minute break if the game ends like this, 10-10. And then we'll go into sudden death for 1 period. If it's still tied, that's the way it'll end.
What do you do with the run back, and what do you do with the next 2 or 3 plays on offense? You're willing to go into overtime now to get another shot offensively without perhaps losing it by a foolish move.
Again, both teams have 3 timeouts remaining. I don't suppose Dallas is too concerned about an onside kick right here. I don't think that Minnesota would try that in this situation. But Cox kicks away. Butch Johnson will field it at the goal line. Clock starts, and here comes Johnson. Swinging to the outside. Got a couple of blocks. Butch Johnson to the 45, to the 48-yard line. A fine return by Johnson, and what a clutch time.
And boy, is he a part of this team.
You know who made the tackle?
No, who made
Fred Cox.
Good running back at Pittsburgh a few years ago.
Dallas got the good return that they needed right there. They have all 3 of their timeouts left. They have a minute 27 seconds left on the clock. And the challenge is to the Minnesota defense, one of the best. First down, Dallas at their own 48. And Roger Staubach goes back. Oh, almost a low snap from center again. The fake across the middle, caught by Jay Salvey, the backup tight end, who's still trying to get up and into the scuffle with Matt Blair. They might go with a quick count right here. By the way, if this game should end like this and we went to sudden death, 60 minutes will be seen in its entirety. Just slide the whole thing back again. 2nd and 5. The Minnesota 48. They're not in field goal range as of right now. Less than a minute left to play. Staubach gets the forward handoff to Newhouse. Oh, Newhouse gets to the 45 where he is really hit by Jeff Seaman.
Seaman and Blair really unloaded on Newhouse. And that play looked super starting out, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Those linebackers for the Vikings.
Dallas, I believe, has just used a timeout, so they have 2 left. Minnesota has 3. The ball is at the Viking 45. Not yet in range for a friend Herrera. Situation is about 3rd and 3 for Dallas.
I can't believe that they wouldn't, without taking too big a chance, want to finish this thing off in regular play if they could get close enough for a safe field goal shot. A long one that could be blocked, I don't think would be advisable, because you know how the Vikings do things with blocked kicks and all. Los Angeles, they blocked 16 type kicks last year. The Minnesota team did 13 in the regular season, 3 in the playoffs, so they can do that. But you sure don't want to go into an extra period and try to figure out how to win it then either, if you can win it now. There he is.
There's Herrera.
Kickers are pretty lonely, though, Pat, when it really, huh? When you're the only guy that can come in, huh?
That's right. Special place on that bench for the kickers. 3rd and 3. 48 seconds left to play. Dallas goes back into the shotgun again. Forward handoff is to Pearson. He's got the first down for Dallas. And they've got to get back to the huddle in a hurry or else call another timeout right here. First down for the Cowboys. They're inside the 40 now. And they hustle back in a hurry. 32 seconds left. The clock's still running. 30 seconds. At the 39-yard of Minnesota, Staubach drops. Newhouse gets out of bounds at the 32. And now the challenge really preys on the mind of Herrera. There he is.
What a year he had a year ago, though. He came right in and kicked under pressure from the very first moment. A likable little character. He'll sit in the lobby on the morning before a game and read the cartoons, the paper, the editorials, and nothing much bothers him.
Again, if this game should happen to go into overtime, you will still see 60 minutes in its entirety. We obviously would cover this game in its entirety, but just slide the whole network schedule back. You'll still see 60 minutes. A second down situation. 2nd and 23. A 2nd and 2. 23 seconds. Golden Richards jumps it incomplete. 18 seconds left on the clock. The ball, the line of scrimmage, the 31-yard line. So it would be a tough shot for Herrera.
You talk about coverage, though. Nate Wright now, and that was solo coverage. They had the blitz going, and he went right with Golden Richards. We're still watching the young kicker, and nobody's talking to him. Maybe he doesn't even want to talk to anybody right now. There he comes.
It'll be 3rd and 2, the situation coming up right now, at the 31-yard line. 18 seconds left to play. The score tied at 10-10. And again, the shotgun. Blitz is on by the Vikes. Wide open is Pearson. At the 15, he is out of bounds. Staubach really hung in there.
How about squeezing off that round, though, when you know the linebackers are coming, so he knows he's going to have an open receiver. But looking into it's another thing.
It's a first down, Dallas, at the 15-yard line. 13 seconds left to play. Dallas still has 2 timeouts left. Minnesota has 3.
How far do you take it down?
Right now, I think you protect it.
One more play?
Maybe one more and then kick it on 2nd down. And just in case you might get a bad snap from center, you'd have an extra down to do it. Ballback gives to Pearson, and he protects. He gets to the 10. 7 seconds. And now Pat Haggerty has stopped the clock with 6 seconds to go, and here comes the field goal unit. Efrain Herrera and Drew.
Remember, he's from Guadalajara, went to UCLA, had passport problems and everything else, and he is kicking for Dallas.
He is also kicking very well for Dallas. 78% he was last year, and that's just phenomenal. Six seconds left on the clock. 10-10 to score. Efrain Herrera with Charlie Waters to hold. At the 18, it'll be 28 yards for Herrera. It is not good. He pulled it.
Well, that roar tells you the appreciation for one pulled left.
Herrera from 28 yards.
You can almost see the whole Dallas bench go down.
10-10. Minnesota, Dallas. 3 seconds left on that scoreboard clock. And Francis just covers up. It'll be overtime.
Sudden death overtime.
They'll go 1 quarter. Each team will have 2 timeouts in that 1 quarter. We'll wait 3 minutes before we come back for the sudden death period. Pat Haggerty will summon the captains to the middle of the field again, and it'll be just starting a new ball game.
And that's an important toss. This is much more important than just opening the football game with the second half.
It certainly is. Haggerty still calling. Here comes Harvey Martin, Drew Pearson, Jay Saldi out from the Dallas bench, Jim Marshall, I believe Mick Tingelhoff.
Call a coin in the air.
And Amos
Winland Hall.
Winland Hall is the special team captain. I started to say Amos Martin, but he's gone.
Call it in the air.
We got tails.
Tails, he calls. There it is. You want the ball? Which goal will you take?
Minnesota got the football. You heard him. Listen to the roar. Minnesota and Dallas go into sudden death overtime. Opening Sunday turned out to be one heck of a Sunday, didn't it? 10-10. The regulation is over.
Before we go back to Bloomington for sudden death, we would like to straighten out that controversial punt by the Dallas Cowboys. Was there or was there not a fumble? We have taken this angle back here in New York and slowed it down. And you will see that the ball is touched. But Irv Cross contacted Irv Reeder. Now watch, here is Bob Grimm, number 26. He will touch the ball right here, and some folks thought it was a fumble. It is the momentum of the punt that carries it into the end zone, Reeder said. Therefore, it is not a free ball. When it gets into the end zone, it is a touchback. The officials ruled correctly. Let's go back to Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire.
We're in sudden death. Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota. The Vikings won the toss and said, we want the ball. And they're about to get it. Herrera, who just missed that field goal, shanks one high. Taken by Miller at the 18. Robert Miller gets to the 30-yard line before he's swarmed on by Dallas special team led by Guy Brown.
Going to be interesting, Pat, to see if the Cowboys can now get it back to that intense edge again. I thought the whole team sort of wow, inhaled and fell down when the kick didn't go. And Minnesota has the ball first. 8-5, Dan Rather's watching.
You are right, I'm sure. First down, Minnesota at their own 30. First and 10. He gives to Foreman. Foreman kicks into the secondary. Cliff Harris took him down after about a 4-yard pickup. D.D. Lewis helped.
I just had a bunch of stats pushed down to me, and they don't mean a single thing. When it's all tied and you're going sudden death, it starts from 0 again. Just crank it back.
At the 35-yard line. 5-yard pickup by Foreman. We have 14 minutes and 20 seconds left in sudden death overtime. Score is Dallas 10, Minnesota 10. The reverse. Wide open is Bob Grimm. I mean, wide open. And he overthrew him. Grimm was so open, Tarkenton could not believe it.
He was down there in the sun doing side straddle hops. That's how open he was, the flea flicker. And that's the first time I can remember Minnesota ever pulling that off. A double reverse and give it back to Fran Tarkenton. Look at him. Look at Fran.
Remember that Ram game we did up here last year?
Yes.
Minnesota was down in a position to score. The score was 10-10. And Ram linebacker Rick Kay intercepted a pass. A lot of people asked Mr. Tarkenton why he threw that pass. 3rd and 5 situation at the Minnesota 35. Tarkenton operating in the sunlight with half his team in the shadows. Draw play, Sammy Johnson. Going to get the first. He did. First down, Vikings.
Good block by McClanahan, too. Sprung him.
Here's the draw play.
Number 33 gets good position. Tingelhoff does, too.
Defensive tackles for Dallas are now Larry Cole and Randy White. Jethro Pugh not playing at the moment. A handoff. Sammy Johnson to the 45. Second and 7 situation. Minnesota. 13 minutes left in overtime. 10-10. Tarkenton on a sprint out. Looks right. Looks and threw it away. Intentional grounding is going to be called again. This one will be more costly than the other one.
He sort of rolls this like he's got a grand on the hard 8. Watch the way Fran runs to the right, it sets up, and then just barely sees Harvey Martin coming. When he does, though, talk about being able to, there it is.
And back go the Vikings.
Intentional grounding, loss of down, offense, number 10. 3rd down.
So it'll be 3rd and 22. That's a loss of a down. That intentional grounding.
You know, a weird percentage has cropped up. There's so many stats coming out these days that the teams don't play as really as tight a defense in the prevent defense as they do in their normal defenses. So 3rd and long, but Fran has a lot of room to throw in there.
Yeah, he does. But do you want to take a chance here? With this much yardage to go, would you throw it?
I couldn't even get my arm back.
He's going to throw. He's chased by Larry Cole, and he's down at the 20. Again, number 63. There is Neil Quavo.
Larry Cole's made about one of those every game that I can ever remember seeing, or every quarter.
Neil Quavo. With the ball at the 20-yard line. Quavo standing back at the 5. Butch Johnson back alone for Dallas.
4th and 100.
Here's a snap. Shanked it. Out of bounds. 60 minutes will be seen in its entirety. Immediately following this game, we're going to stay with this, of course, until it's over. And 60 minutes will be sliding back a little bit. You'll see it in Staubach. Drew Pearson at the 31. How did he hang on? Bobby Bryant.
185 pounds, and you've seen him come across the middle. Of course, the people here have seen him catch the ball in the last few seconds to win the championship game, right? Well, watch this catch, and I mean he's stuck. Coming across the middle, that's the test. And I'll tell you, Pearson is all by himself in that category.
And tough, too. He looked like he might be a little bit shaken, but by the time he got back to the huddle, he was okay. And now he splits wide to the right. 1st and 10. Dallas. Minnesota 31. Pearson again. Caught it again. Amazing. Nate Wright on the coverage. But Drew Pearson is something a little bit special.
Watch this. That's a 9-8. Maybe a 10.
Talking to some of the Cowboys, some of their representatives yesterday and last night, they were saying if we had to pick the most valuable player, it would be number 88, Drew Pearson. 2nd and 6. The ball at the 26. Staubach fails, throws out to Golden Richards. Breaks a couple. Golden Richards down to about the 15 before they get him out of bounds. Bobby Bryant. Good effort by Golden.
And Neely was out in front. Remember when they had to help him to the sidelines, number 73?
Game's been produced by Bob Stinner, as always so well, directed by Tony Berna. Superbly. That's the rest of our group there. It's been a heck of a way to start the year, I'll tell you that. 10-10. Dallas, Minnesota, we're in overtime. It looks like Herrera might get another chance. Newhouse. To the 9. Matt Blair was the first guy to hit him.
Straight at the young tackle. Straight at James White, number 72. Now that Dallas feeling is back in numero uno, that better kick this one, but he knows. He was pulling them left a little bit when warming up, Pat. You and I were watching, and I thought Dan Reeves was a little bit upset about it.
Yeah, I know he was. I'd like to welcome those of you who've been watching St. Louis and Denver to our overtime game here. Dallas 10, Minnesota 10. It is 2nd and 4, I believe. And Dallas has called a timeout. They only get 2 in this overtime period. 2nd and 4. Staubach going over to talk to Landry. There's not much to say now. There's a friend Herrera. He missed a 28-yard field goal with 6 seconds to go in regulation time. 2nd and 4. At the 9, Staubach gives to Pearson, who breaks one tackle. Broke out of the arms of Alan Page. Got back inside the 9, down to about the 8. Landry telling Butch Johnson what he wants done.
Whatever you do, don't do it wrong.
Jay Salvey comes in with Butch. Golden Richards is called back. There is Efren Herrera. No need to warm up now.
Nope.
Because there's no way to get loose anyway.
There's nowhere to go.
10-10, 3rd and 3. The ball is at the 8. Staubach gives to Pearson again. Preston Pearson might have the first down on a great second effort. It is a first down, Dallas.
If anybody has given more than they had to give today, it's been Preston Pearson. I don't think he feels the pressure of Tony Dorsett, because this guy has always been this way. Pittsburgh uniform, Baltimore uniform, or whatever. You get every single bit of him, I'll tell you.
First down, Cowboys. 9 minutes left in the overtime period. Tom Landry walking along in front of the bench. 60 minutes will be seen in its entirety. Immediately following this game, we'll just slide the whole schedule back. We'll see it all. Staubach looking in the end zone. He's going to run. Rodgers, Staubach scores for Dallas, and that'll do it. 16-10, the Cowboys prevail.
A playoff game on the very first weekend of the season. I think he wanted to run with it all the way. The end did not get out. Good coverage by Minnesota. Blair comes up, a fast linebacker. You're looking at the man that went to the Naval Academy, taking in himself. Up periscope, looks like he made it.
Took it right over Jeff Seaman to score. So Dallas in a tough struggle over Minnesota, 16-10. I remind you again that 60 minutes will be seen in its entirety. You'll just slide the whole schedule back. We'll do that so that we could bring you Dallas 16, Minnesota 10 in sudden death. What'd you think?
I'm not going to make 14 of these, I'll tell you that. That's as much tension as you can have for a football game to start out the football season. I've never seen two teams use everybody on their squad to make some kind of an effort to get into the game.
Don't forget the CBS Sports Spectacular, the Trenton 150, next week on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is Pat Summerall then, Fort Tom, Brookshire, saying goodbye from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota. The NFL Today is a presentation of CBS Sports.